rather than apparently there's a viewer on the Ollie Johnson Plays one. So,
That will be me.
oh right. Uh, okay, so if anyone there does happen to see this and wants to see the end of this stream, hop on over to the main channel, youtube.com/@OllieJohnson, and we will continue this discussion there. See ya. Wrong channel that I forgot to take this stream off. Or should I just leave it up? What do you reckon?
It's up to you.
You know what? I'll leave it up for now, as I started streaming on the wrong bloody channel.
So
Yeah, I've started, so I'll finish. I knew I'd forgot something. It was nagging at me. I knew I'd forgot something.
Yeah. Yeah, but here we are.
Yeah.
Dear. Oh dear.
Okay.
Here we are, an hour and a half late, and we're still making mistakes.
Yeah. Oh well.
But
more channels theoretically means more reach. So I'll overlook it just this once.
Yes.
So, Sherlock Holmes, the adventures thereof, that we have finished.
Yes. Yes, part 4 of 4, which consists of stories 10, 11, and 12, which are the Noble Bachelor, the Beryl Coronet, which is a really horrible word looking at it, Beryl, and the Copper Beeches.
Beryl just sounds like the name of a very put upon old woman. That like
Beryl?
I know that because our friend of the show, Maura, would he's a fan of a comic strip called Viz in the UK, and there is a recurring character who has a wife of that name who he habitually shouts when irritated. Beryl! Yeah. So that's what makes me think of that. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
I should probably check the audio, shouldn't I?
Yeah. So we have Miriam in our game channel and Beryl in our reading channel. Poor older women that we keep putting upon.
Yeah. The joke there is the currency in Shadow of Mordor that we've been playing, with which you purchase upgrades and abilities and what have you, is called Miriam.
Miriam!
Miriam! Yeah. Yeah.
We are easily entertained.
Apparently so. Anyway, the Noble Bachelor.
Yes, and as demonstrated if you've watched previous Sherlock Holmes, it was on Tome Raider with us laughing at the word ejaculate. Or ejaculate.
I only noted one in the 3 stories that we're reading today. Well, that we're discussing today, that we have already read.
Yeah.
So first, general sentiments. What did you think of the adventure of the Noble Bachelor?
It is. It seems one of the more easy ones, and sort of like, again, another one that you could put together, but that might also come with like 140-ish, 130-ish years of stories, possibly ripping from this and it ripping from older stories, and watching far too many procedurals at various times. It was just, of course, there is a secret husband.
Yeah.
Could possibly have been scandalous at the time as secret marriage.
Yeah.
But I have just rather given the game away, but...
Yeah. Well, the thing about going back to the classics, as it were, as we're very much doing here, is a lot of things are influenced by them. And it's like, I remember I didn't see The Matrix until the year 2013. So when that one bit came with the swooping camera and, you know, the whole 360 camera thing, it looked so cliche, even though I knew I was watching the first thing to do it, and the reason it looked cliche is because everything was referencing this.
Yeah, everything was copying it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, and I think sometimes with really old but famous stories like these, you do run into that happening now and then.
yes, it's just like, oh, this is a much earlier version of it, but because I have seen so many since then, this seems so obvious, in which it probably wouldn't have been at the time.
Yeah. Secret
Yes,
husband.
but
Secret husband. No, it doesn't work with the rhythm.
secret wedding.
That's better.
Secret wedding. Yeah, or
Uh,
secret marriage.
yeah. Okay.
Yes, but we do start in 221B Baker Street this
As
time.
is mostly the case, but not always.
Yes, this is before Watson's wedding, so this would be after the Sign of Four, but before what was the first one in this collection?
Oh, oh, it wasn't the Red-Headed League. That was number 2. Uh,
Scandal in Bohemia.
Scandal in Bohemia. How did I forget that? I am not on it
Yeah, so
today. Oh,
it seems to be between the two of those because he's married in the Scandal in Bohemia, but he is not married here. So that is roughly the setting we're at. So that's
I'm just
places
gonna
in
put.
the early 1880s.
Oh,
He's
oh.
Oh.
I think the stream stopped for a. Oh wait, no, no. Apparently they're like. Did we stop at any point during the stream? I updated
not
the.
wrong.
I updated the title to include hashtag ASMR in the YouTube title. Maybe it'll track better because we got the crackling fire
Yes.
and we're talking quite softly.
Yes.
Just come and listen to us talk about crimes and the solving thereof. That's relaxing, isn't it?
Well, you know, far too many people watch true life murder documentaries as a form of relaxation. Which, what does that say about the state of the world?
Yeah.
But anyway, we return to 221B Baker Street, where Watson has just been sitting in reading the newspapers and is thoroughly bored with them.
What's on, Watson? Sorry.
I didn't catch that.
I just went, what's on, Watson?
Yes. Yeah, Watson is inside because it's raining. There's autumnal winds, and the bullet in his limb, which I believe is his leg or possibly his arm, is throbbing with a dull persistence. And so he is there
As
just
I've read,
being lazy.
happens with cold weather and old wounds.
Yes. Yes, so it makes sense. So he's being lazy in the living room, and is just waiting for some entertainment. And the most interesting thing to him at the moment is the fact that there is a nice-looking letter waiting for Sherlock, sitting on the table from the afternoon's post. Yes, and so it's basically as soon as Sherlock gets back, here is a very fashionable epistle. Your morning letters, if I remember right, were from a fishmonger and a tide waiter. It was just like, please, just open the letter and tell me about it. I am so bored.
Yeah. You'll perhaps be able to post me up. Ah, so Sherlock Holmes only read the criminal news and the agony column. Uh,
Yes.
and they're asking
Yes,
about
and
the wedding of a Lord St. Simon, which is the talk of the town at the moment.
yeah, Lord Robert St. Simon. The letter in question reads, "My dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, Lord Blackwater tells me that I may place implicit reliance upon your judgment and discretion. I have determined, therefore, to call upon you and to consult you in reference to the very painful event that has occurred in connection with my wedding. Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard is acting already in the matter, but he assures me that he sees no objection to your cooperation, and that he even thinks that it might be of some assistance. I will call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and should you have any other engagement at this time, hope that you will postpone it, as it is a matter of paramount importance. Yours faithfully, Robert St. Simon."
It's like, my problem is more important than anyone else's.
Because I am nobility. He, yes, and Sherlock makes a couple of deductions about it, namely that it is written with a quill, and that the Lord has the misfortune of having smudged ink upon his little finger while writing. And fortunately, Holmes got back from his afternoon stroll in time, because it is free in the afternoon and they are calling at 4.
Yeah,
And
that's lucky.
yeah, and in the moment of showing of Sherlock's sort of areas where he of lack of knowledge, he doesn't actually know very much about Lord St. Simon, and knows nothing about his wedding or the scandal or attached to it. So he picks up one of his books that he stores clippings of the important or interesting people, and reads a bit about Lord Robert Walsingham de Vere St. Simon, second son of the Duke of Balmoral.
Ain't that a place in Star Wars?
Yes, Balmoral is a place in Star Wars. It's also the name of one of the palaces that the royal family, or an area around the palace. I want to say it's in Scotland.
Yeah. No, I'm not suggesting that Arthur Conan Doyle cribbed something from Star Wars 100 years in advance.
Yeah. Yes, Balmoral is in the Scottish Highlands. I believe it's where they retreat to for Christmas. Or used to, anyway. They may not quite so much anymore.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. He concludes that his notes have very little of interest on what is actually about the Duke, other than he has, or the Lord, that he has a very strange name, as always. He's and that he is a bit mature for marriage in many looks, being at 41 years of age rather than his late 20s.
Oh no.
He's yes, the scandal. He's marrying late. But he goes, "Oh, that didn't give me the information. You must tell me the gossip, the news, then." And Watson, who has, while this has been going on, putting the finding the articles from the various papers around him that are of importance to the case and the nature of the man, in which there's just a small piece telling him that a wedding has been arranged between St. Simon and Hattie Doran.
Yeah.
And San Francisco.
I wonder how the public would have reacted to a royal marrying an American in 1880. We know how they reacted now.
Yeah. And we also know how they reacted in the 1920s when the royal married a divorced American who was Catholic.
How did they
He
react?
abdicated the throne. He abdicated the throne to get away from all the trouble it was causing.
Ugh, the more
There
things
are
change, eh?
there are yeah there were also other factors that led to the abdication, like the fact he was a Nazi sympathizer
Yeah, that would
or a
probably be the
fascist.
more important one.
Well, this was before they looked like. This is before they revealed what they were truly like, and before the royal family properly changed their name to Windsor rather than what it was before, which was rather German.
uh,
Yeah, but yes. Then there is another article where there's where they're a little more sarky about it to an extent, and there will soon be a call for protection in the marriage market, for the present free trade principles appear to tell heavily against our home product. One by one, the management of the noble houses of Great Britain is passing to the hands of our fair cousins from across the Atlantic.
oh,
An
good
important
lord.
addition, an important addition has been made during the last week to the list of prizes which have been borne away by these charming invaders. Lord St. Simon, who has shown himself for over 20 years proof against the little god's arrows, has now definitively announced his approaching marriage with Miss Hattie Duran, the fascinating daughter of a Californian millionaire. Miss Duran, whose graceful figure and striking face attracted much attention at the Westbury House Festivals, is an only child and it is currently reported that her dowry will run to considerably over the six figures, with expectancies for the future. As it is an open secret that the Duke of Balmoral has been compelled to sell his pictures within the last few years, and as Lord St. Simon has no property of his own save the small estate of Birchmoor, it is obvious that the Californian heiress is not the only gainer by an alliance which will enable her to make the easy and common transition from Republican lady to a British peer.
Ugh,
Trans-
that's
Translation:
very
the royal.
Daily Mail, isn't it?
Yes. What paper did they say it was? From one of the society papers, so it could very well have been a Daily Mail type paper.
By the way, in 1899, the smallest six-figure sum, which is £100,000, would be worth £10,908,173 today.
Yep. with with expectancies in the future, given her father was a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was an only child, so God, a million would be well over 100,000.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Just
Well, it's
add a
just adding a
zero.
zero to the previous.
Yep. £109,081,738. And that's if it's just 1 million. Oh, well, that's in pounds.
Which
It would be like. I mean, I don't know if dollars were always less than pounds. I
I'm not sure at the time, but given that they are talking in an English paper, they have probably translated it across also already.
yeah.
And slash, even if it was he only had $1 million, if the dowry was six figures, he had over $1 million.
Yeah.
And then the next bit is we learned that the marriage is to be a quiet one with only like half a dozen intimate friends invited, and the party afterwards is to be held by her father, uh, Alonsus, Aloysius. Alonzi.
A lot. Sorry.
Yeah,
Well, what is that? Alonso. I mean,
that's
that's
her
as good a
for
name as any.
Alonzi Dorian.
A lot.
Yeah, and then they will be honeymooning at Lord Backwater's place near Petersford. And then most of the uh, next articles are they are all the notices that appear before the disappearance of the bride. For the what? Asks Holmes with a start, because Holmes does not care for gossip, and has completely missed one of the biggest scandals going on in English news at the time. That a recently married woman to a lord has vanished.
Yeah. For the what?
Yeah,
The vanishing of the lady.
that
Where?
when did she vanish then?
At the wedding breakfast.
Indeed, there is more interest. This is more interesting than it promised to be. Quite dramatic, in fact.
Yes, it struck me as being a little out of the common.
They also vanished before the ceremony and occasionally during the honeymoon, but I cannot call to mind anything quite so prompt as this. Pray let me have the details.
I warn you that they are very incomplete.
Perhaps we may make them less so.
And that's basically what, well, that's what Sherlock Holmes does. And, well, I'll get to that later. But, yeah, So Watson recants to him the story of the bride's disappearance.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on what happened next in the story. I read it yesterday.
What's happening next is the account of what happened to the crime according to the papers. It's listing basically everyone who was with the bride and the groom when they retreated for the the wedding breakfast. She spoke with her. There was a woman whose name at the time was not ascertained, came to accost the party at the house, but they were ejected by the butler and the footman.
Aloysius.
And the bride.
Sorry, I just saw
Aloysius. Yeah. The bride did not had already entered, so didn't see the unpleasant interruption. Sat down to breakfast with the rest, complained of a sudden indisposition, and retired to her chambers. And then an instant later, but was reported by her a maid after she had been up a while that she had been in her chambers but an instant, left in an ulster and bonnet, and hurried down the passageway. One of the footmen claimed to see her leave the house, lady leave the house in that outfit, but could not credit it to be the wife because he would assume she would be inside.
Yeah.
And then the moment they learned, they put themselves in contact with the police, the groom, and the father of the bride. And the police have been very energetic in their inquiries. Which will probably result in the speedy clearing up of this very singular business. Yes. And then the next day, there was an identity for the lady who had caused the scene at the front of the house, a Miss Flora Miller, and that she was arrested for it. It's
Yeah.
And an exceedingly interesting case it appears to be. I would have not missed it for the world. But there is a ring at the bell, Watson, and so the clock makes it a few minutes after 4. I have no doubt this is our noble client. Do not dream of going, Watson, for I very much prefer having a witness, if only as a check to my own memory.
Now, he likes to show off for Watson.
Yes, it is indeed one of his weaknesses, is the showing off to Watson.
But also, a thing I've observed about the character is, despite his tendency to show off to Watson because of how uh, spectacular Watson finds what he does, Sherlock doesn't agree with that.
Yes.
Sherlock doesn't agree that what he does is in any way that special, because he expects Watson to be able to do it.
Yes, yes. And indeed, he has complained in a few of the short stories about Watson's adding a flair to the story
Yeah,
in a way that it seems.
yeah. Well, he sees what he does as basically like reading.
Yes,
Mm,
yes,
To him, it's a simple thing that anyone who tries to should be able to do.
yes. But at this point, Lord Robert St. Simon is introduced into the room, described as pleasant, cultured face, high nosed and pale, something of petulance around the mouth. Also, expects to be obeyed. Well, he's a noble, so of course he is.
Yeah.
His manner was brisk, and yet his general appearance was given gave an undue impression of age. He had a slight forward stoop and a little bend of his knees as he walked. Swept hair too was swept off his very curly brimmed hat with. I don't need to get the such. He also seems to uh, high collar, frock coat, slight foppish look, white waistcoat, yellow gloves, patent leather shoes, and light coloured gaiters. Another man coming to Sherlock Holmes's house in gaiters.
uh,
Uh, yeah, and he fiddles with the cord that holds his golden eyeglasses. He is greeted warmly by by Holmes, not by hose.
no, this isn't Home Alone.
Yeah,
Although, Victorian aristocrat trying to invade Kevin McAllister's house is a very funny mental image.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, Holmes greets him politely, and he responds with, "A most painful matter to me, for, as you can most readily imagine, Mr. Holmes, I have been cut to the quick. I understand that you have already managed several delicate cases of this sort, sir, though I presume they are hardly from the same class of society."
it's like, actually, I've already helped a king.
"No, I am descending. I beg your pardon. My last client of the sort was a king." "Oh, really? I had no idea. And which king?" "King of Scandinavia." "What? He had lost his wife? Can understand that I extend to the affairs of my other clients the same secrecy which I promised to you and yours."
I mean, if he's referring to a
Uh,
scandal in Bohemia, like, that's not an inaccurate
uh,
summation of events.
he is not referring to a scandal in Bohemia. What he is referring to is the case that, because he mentions in the Scandal of Bohemia that the King of Scandinavia is the one that recommended Holmes unto the
Oh, yeah.
hereditary King of Bohemia.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Oh,
also
Seb's
remember,
here.
this
Hello,
is
Seb.
before. Hello, Seb. Because remember, as we established earlier, this was before a scandal in Bohemia.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. Ah, I am not on
Ollie
it
is
today.
very
No,
tired.
I just slammed a full can of Lucasade Alert Blue, so I should be alright in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, the marketing name
That's
is
already
Lucasade God Lucasade. Sorry.
Lucas 8 Energy, God Energy! Ah, God damn it.
Oh god. Seb just said, have you ever heard that there's a government program in the Czech Republic to boost the rap and hip hop industry there? It's the Bohemian Rap Subsidy.
Ah.
Oh, I needed that today. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Just It's like you were needed lamb.
Oh, good lord,
Right?
yeah. Dogs.
Yes, but yes, Holmes starts making inquiries that to get the facts straight. Discovering that they first met in San Francisco a year ago, the bride and the groom. That they didn't get engaged then, but they were on friendly footings. And her father is very rich. He is said to be the richest man on the Pacific Slope. How did he make his money? In mining. He struck nothing for a few years, struck gold, invested it, and came up heaps and bounds. The
So,
American dream.
so you could call him a great mine craftsman, if you wanted.
Yeah, sorry.
So, I said, so you could call him a great
Okay.
mine craftsman if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Says as well, now that my bail's paid, I can be there. Nobody bought it, Seth.
Yeah.
He oh, you're in the group
I
chat, aren't you? So you know.
yeah. Yes, but Seb's April Fools was a bit obvious. We know you, Seb. They would let you go so you would stop talking to them about Hearts of Iron 4.
To be fair, he doesn't talk about it that much.
No, but he would get out of prison.
No, yeah, I suppose you could, like, hoy
Yeah.
them into submission.
Yeah,
Oh.
but Robert St. Simon is then asked to describe the character of his wife, and the description is basically she was a bit of a tomboy. And in fact, I believe that is actively what he calls her now. She is what we call in England a tomboy. Strong nature, wild and free, unfettered by any sort of tradition.
I don't think that's the contemporary definition of a tomboy, but it's interesting to see that that's what they call one there. That just seems like a woman who's not keen on being told what to do.
Well, it also starts with during that time she had ran free in the mining camp and wandered through woods or mountains, so that her education has come from nature rather than from the schoolmaster. So
Yeah.
a bit more in keeping with it, with today's description, but not entirely so.
Yeah.
So swift to make up her mind and carry out her resolutions, and he believes that she is a woman capable of heroic self-sacrifice, and that anything dishonorable would be repugnant to her. He doesn't have a photograph, but he does have an ivory miniature, so they can get a look of what she looks like when he asks. And
that's the most rich person thing ever. I don't have a photograph, but here's this ivory miniature.
Yes.
That I had carved.
Yes. I believe in this context, the ivory miniature is almost sort of like a painting within a locket rather than a statue.
Oh. Yeah, of course. I remember the locket now.
Yeah. Yes, but she came to London and they met up several times, continued their acquaintance, and then got engaged and got married. He refers to the dowry when questioned as a fair dowry, not more than is usual in my family. Oh, la-di-da. So,
yeah.
And he hasn't inquired as to what's going to happen, given that the wife's vanished in terms of the dowry, and Hose approves of this, so removes an air of foul play to it. Was she in good spirits? She was before the wedding. And she was as bright as possible, at least until after the ceremony.
Yeah.
Did you observe any change in her? Uh, well, to tell the truth, I saw then the first signs that I had ever seen that her temper was just a little sharp. The incident was too trivial to relate and had no possible bearing upon the case, which of course means it is absolutely key to the case.
Yeah. I mean, it must have taken all of Sherlock's self-control to say, "I'll be the judge of that," to not say, "I'll be the judge of that, Sonny Jim."
Yeah. Pray let us have it for all that.
Seb wants to know if you've ever seen Twin Peaks.
No, I haven't.
Uh,
I am behind on a lot of what is considered must-watch TV.
yeah,
And not much TV. I am behind on a lot of TV.
Yeah. Me too. I'm still watching TNG. I'm further behind than you think.
Yeah. The incident in question is she dropped her bouquet into a pew when they were walking towards the vestry, and that the man took a moment to hand it back to her. And yes, he was a member of the general public, not one of the families, not one of his friends that come along. And as far as he is aware, he is not a friend of his wife, and he was calling him a gentleman as a courtesy, as he was a common-looking person. Hardly noticed his appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The snobbery at play in this person, and you can't blame them for it. They're born into it, aren't they? But still.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lady St. Simon seemed cheerful when they got home, and when she had made it back home,
Seb says Roots
husband
TNG and Star Trek TNG, the one related to LeVar Burton.
But yes, there is he saw her in conversation with her maid Alice, who he feels is a bit too friendly with the now Lady St. James.
Yeah. Seb says, I feel like from the author's perspective, it's look how silly these snobby people are. Yeah, that does come off quite a bit in some of Conan Doyle's descriptions. Particularly the last line of A Scandal in Bohemia. Is it not a pity she was not on my level? Which is still my favourite line in the stories. Oh, believe me, she was on a very different level to your majesty.
Yes, this is like, well, as Holmes calls her, she is the woman.
Yeah. Oh.
And so, so she's on a much higher level than everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's Lord St. Simon thinks she's a bit overly familiar with Lady St. Simon, the Alice, her handmaiden, her maid, not handmaiden. That's very different. And did you overhear any of what they said? Lady St. Simon said something about jumping a claim. She was accustomed to using slang of the kind. I have no idea what she meant. And American slang is very expressive sometimes.
Yeah. So I know he's called Conan Doyle, but I keep wanting to put Arthur Conan O'Brien, who is someone else entirely.
That's an American talk show host, if I'm not mistaken. But they then went to breakfast. Okay, go on.
Oh no, Seb just said jumping the clay. I think it was jumping the claim, but was it?
Claim.
Yeah. Seb said jumping the clay means having a wank.
Not in this house, it doesn't.
In this house.
Yeah. Yes, and then they mentioned that Lady St. James is independent and didn't come into breakfast on his arm. That she sat down for 10 minutes, rose hurriedly, muttered some words of apology, and left the room. She never came back. Because she quickly put on a ulster, a bonnet, and walked out of the house. And she was afterwards seen in Hyde Park in the company of Flora Miller, the woman who was arrested for this kidnapping. So you can see why they think this kidnapping is up.
Wasn't Hyde Park a location in Assassin's Creed Syndicate?
Yes, yes.
That was the one we had. That was the one we had a load of trouble. Sorry, I cannot stay focused today.
Yes, it seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, seems worse than usual, and I'm usually pretty bad.
Yes, yes, but the woman in question, Flora Miller, is an old acquaintance of Lord St. Simon, and they were on a friendly footing for some years, a very friendly footing. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. Say no more, say no more.
Yeah, he says, I have not treated her ungenerously, and she has no cause of complaint against me. But you know what women are, Mr. Holmes. I'm thinking, yeah, they're something underestimated by most men, including myself.
But no longer. Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point in the story, including him, because he's not met the woman yet.
Yeah, so he probably thinks that he hasn't underestimated woman, and he won't. Oh, you poor fool. Yeah. But he describes Flora as hot-headed and exceedingly devotedly attached to him. She wrote some dreadful letters when she heard he was to be married. Translation, you bastard! Why are you marrying someone else? Here, well, the time's not good.
Oh.
Yeah, and she is the reason why the wedding was meant to be quiet, because he feared there would be a scandal in church.
Yeah.
And he had prepared the staff at Mr. Dorian's house in case she should appear. Where she endeavoured to push her way in, uttering very abusive expressions towards his wife and threatening her. I would have thought that the first ones were enough of a threat, but here we are.
Yeah.
Apparently her abuse is not a threat in Victorian England.
Sorry,
or male
you broke
friendship.
Up there. What's not a threat in Victorian England?
Apparently hurling abuse is not seen as a threat in Victorian England or male friendship groups.
Apparently not.
No, but we established that Lady St. James did not see any of this commotion, and but was later seen with this woman later, and at this point Lestrade is mentioned, and it seems Lestrade is of the opinion that Flora somehow decoyed Lady St. James out and has kidnapped her, or worse. Though Lord St. James seems find this out of character for her. He's giving the he came for a theory, but Sherlock asks his, and his theory is that the sudden rise in social station has come some form of sudden derangement, because by God, mental health understanding at the time and the self-absorbment of the upper classes is a bizarre combination.
It is indeed. No, Seb, they do not have dinner with Strahd.
Yeah. And Holmes is content he's got most of the information he needs, and inquires as to whether they could have seen out the window when they sat down for breakfast. Yes, and he confirms they did. They could. They could see the roads and the park.
Yeah.
And if it's quite so, then I do not think that I need to detain you any longer. I shall communicate with you Should you be fortunate enough in solving my problem, said our client, rising, I have solved it. Eh? What was that? I said that I have solved it. Where, then, is my wife? That is a detail which I shall speedily supply.
Yeah, like I know that, like, so he knows the broad strokes. He just needs to fill out some details. Basically, is what he means.
Namely, he needs an address.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lord Zintyron, I am afraid it will take wiser heads than yours or mine, he says, and then leaves. And Sherlock's like, well, he's very good of Lord St. Silent to under my head by putting it on the level of his own. But he laughs.
Yeah.
I think that I shall have a whiskey and soda and a cigar after all this cross-questioning. I had formed my conclusions as to the case before our client came into the room.
Yeah, apparently
dear Mr.
Sherlock was also very genre aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is actually what if Sherlock read more of these salacious novels of the time, he would be able to solve crimes without ever needing to see a crime scene. Boring, boring, boring. Done that.
Yeah. He's reading through, like, I don't know, one such novel. It's like, oh, that's not how it happens.
Yes, but Holmes notes that there are several cases of which there are precedents that are similar. And while mentioning one in Munich, Franco-Prussian War, Aberdeen, and such, I was like, oh, hello, here is Lestrade. Good afternoon, Lestrade. Help you. You'll find an extra tumbler on the sideboard, and the cigars are in the box. It's just like, I'm not getting up for you. You can help you. You can serve yourself.
Because he's not a welcome guest. Because Sherlock doesn't respect Scotland Yard. The curse of Lestrade.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh God. Why did we only think of it now? Not 2 weeks ago.
When we were still running, well, when we were still playing Curse of Strahd.
Yes. Yes, and Holmes notes that Lestrade doesn't seem to be happy with the case. Yes. And quotes of, whoever heard of such a mixed affair? Every clue seems to slip through my fingers. I have been at work upon it all day.
Yeah. Which is typical of Scotland Yard in Sherlock's eyes, isn't it? It's like, well, I mean, I solved it in 5 minutes.
I just needed the papers. What took you so long? But they note that Lestrade is wet at the moment, and it's because he has been dredging a river, the Serpentine, or a lake. I get a body of water, and Holmes sort of mocks him as like, "Have you dragged the basin of the Trafalgar Square fountain in because you have as good a chance of finding this lady in there as you do in the Serpentine?" And I suppose you think you know all about it. Well, I've only just heard the facts, but my mind is made up. Oh, then you think the Serpentine played no thing in the matter? I think it very unlikely. Then kindly explain how we found this in there. And he opens a bag and pulls out a bundle, which includes a wedding dress of watered silk, a pair of white satin shoes, and the bride's wreath and veil, all discoloured and soaked. And then a wedding ring is also put in there.
Yeah.
And oh, so you dragged these from the Serpentine? It's like, no, they were found floating near the margin, and they have been identified as her clothes. And we thought the body could not be far because, of course, her dress, her veil, her shoes, and her wedding ring would naturally float off of her body.
Yeah, and it's like, well, since these are closed, the body can't be far. And Sherlock's like, well, by that logic, no man can possibly be located far from his wardrobe.
Yes. Which, admittedly, if you were going to be murdered near your wardrobe, it would make it easier to work out who killed you. But you just follow the drag marks of the wardrobe of the person who stabbed you.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
And Lestrade claims to have some evidence in implicating Flora Miller in the disappearance. And there's a sort of like and gets a bit frustrated with Holmes where he says, "I think you will find that difficult." Or to the goes, "I am afraid, Holmes, that you are not very practical with your deductions and your inferences. You made 2 blunders in as many minutes. This dress does implicate Miss Flora Miller. And how? In the dress is a pocket, and in the pocket is a card case, and in the card case is a note, and here is the very note."
I mean,
Yes.
Lestrade's being a poor sport here. He's not furnishing Sherlock with all the data. And then, like, trying to pull one over on him when he misses something because he doesn't have the data that would lead him to it.
Yes. Listen to this. You will see me when all is ready. Come at once. FHM. Yeah.
So he said, here is the very note. It reads, fuck Scotland Yard. Sherlock drops his tea. Why would Scotland Yard do this?
Yeah, and now this is a lot of the basis of the idea that Flora Miller decoyed Lady St. Simon out, drew this, and then disappeared. It was signed with her very initials, this note, and slipped into her hand at the door and lured away when she was within reach. Holmes laughing. Very good, Lestrade. You really are very fine. Let me see it. Holds the paper listlessly, and then his attention is riveted on it. This is indeed very important. Ah, you find it so? Extremely so. I congratulate you warmly. He raises his head in triumph, and then bends his head to look. And is like, "Why?" he shrieked. "You're looking at the wrong side. On the contrary, this is the right side." "That's the right side. You're mad. There is a note written. Here's a note of pencil written here. Over here is what appears to be a fragment of a hotel bill, which interests me deeply." He is just sort of like rooms, 8 pence. No, rooms 8 shilling, breakfast 2 shillings, things and 6 pence, cocktail 1 shilling, lunch 2 shillings, 6 pence, glass of sherry 8 pence. I see nothing in that, goes Lestrade, and of course Holmes has already deduced about 5 things off of it that are of import.
Yeah. A rich guy, probably with a funny accent, is causing all the problems. I think I've seen this one before. So the handmaiden is a decoy.
Lestrade is left in a huff because he thinks he's working hard and Sherlock is mocking him. They are technically both true, but he's not working correctly. And Sherlock is indeed mocking him.
Sherlock is the very epitome of the phrase work smarter, not harder, isn't he?
Yes. And also get everyone to bring all the information to you. Don't go and avoid going to the crime scenes if you can.
Legwork is a last resort, apparently.
Yeah. Yes, and he gives Lestrade a hint as he leaves that that Lady St. James is a myth. There never was, and there never will be a Lady St. James, and or any such person. And Lestrade leaves in a huff.
I mean, he's technically correct.
Yeah. Yes. Holmes goes out at this point. It's after 5 o'clock, so it is only just been over an hour since in just over an hour, he has had a lord and an irate detective
An
visit him.
irate what?
An irate detective,
Uh,
not just an irate dick.
sorry, you stopped after the first syllable of the word constable.
An irate cop.
Well, it sounded a bit like you were saying an irate cunt.
No, they haven't turned up yet. And given the manner of writing, they are unlikely to.
Yeah.
Until we move into this. But while Holmes is out and Watson is left at home with the papers as it is, within an hour, a confectioner's man arrives with a very large box, which is unpacked with the help of a youth, and an Epicurean cold supper is being put out on the mahogany table, or woodcock, pheasant, pate, a foie gras pie, with a group of ancient and cobwebby bottles. So some expensive wine as well has been laid out, and he is assured that that it is the correct address and that it has been paid for, and they vanish like the genie of the Arabian Nights, with no explanation for what's been going on. And then just before 11 at night, Holmes arrives, with grave features but a light in his eyes, which means he has not been disappointed in his conclusions. They have laid the supper then, he says.
I mean, to be fair, Watson should have guessed Sherlock had something to do with that.
I'm guessing so, which is why he hasn't touched it yet, so I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, you seem to expect company. They have laid for 5. Yes, I fancy we'll have some company dropping in. I'm surprised that Lord St. Simon hasn't beat me here. I fancy I hear him now upon the stairs. And there he is, dangling his glasses more vigorously than ever. Not a euphemism, he has glasses on a string, and I imagine when they say dangling it more vigorously, he's spinning them absent-mindedly. Is this the sort of thing you do when you have keys on the chain as well? You just spin them round. Or at least you do if you're in an American crime drama and you're a security guard on a quiet night that's about to be very unquiet. Holmes just remarks, "My messenger reached you then." Then, yes, and I confess the contents startled me beyond measure. Have you good authority for what you say? Best possible. And Lord St. Simon is disappointed and is wondering what his father will say. When he learns that the family has been submitted to this humiliation, which has not been made clear yet of what it is. It is a pure accident. I cannot allow that there is any humiliation. You look at these things from another standpoint, i.e., you're not posh and being judged by everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, and the bell rings at this point. After show, oh yes, it is a slight, a public slight. You must make allowance for this poor girl, placed in so unprecedented a position. And I will make no allowances. I am angry indeed. I have been shamefully used. It was like, I think I hear the door. Yes, there are steps on the landing. Please take a lenient view on the matter. I've brought an advocate here who may be more successful. And Lord St. Simon, allow me to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Francis Hay Moulton, the lady I think you have already met. And at this point, Lord St. Simon springs up and seems very angry. With hands hidden in the breast of his frock coat. The frock of his breast coat? What on earth is wrong with that? There's a picture of a dignity. Yes, and shock horror, Mrs. Frances Hay Moulton is Lady St. James, or the would-be Lady St. James.
And which is what Sherlock meant by Lady St. James is a myth and doesn't exist and never will. Well,
Yes.
we'll come to what he meant by that shortly.
Yeah.
As she explains the situation.
Yes. The insistence of her husband in not doing it in sort of. There's been too much secrets and silence about this whole thing. Her husband is an American who's small, sunburnt, clean-shaven, and a sharp face and alert manner. And that yes, Frank and her met back in met years earlier when her father was working a claim. And they were engaged to each other, but the one when her father finally struck rich after their engagement, he became less and less warm to it and forbid them to continue their engagement because his daughter was now of high society because money equals class. Frank wouldn't give up though, and followed them after they moved away, and they decided to maintain their engagement, and the easiest way to do that in their mind was just to, at Frank's suggestion, was just to get married and then announce it publicly once he was as rich as her father. So they did. They got married, and he left to continue digging for gold, basically. He in return once he made his fortune. And the next she heard of Frank was a news article on the claim that he was digging of an attack by Native Americans, and he was listed amongst the dead.
So what you're saying is she married a gold digger?
Yeah, she married a gold digger before he was digging gold after her father had dug gold. And their initial engagement was when her father was digging for gold as well. Yes, but yes, she waited, and after over a year of no news to confirm the opposite of the news story from Frank, she accepted that he was dead and met the Lord St. Francis. Not Lord St. Francis, is it Lord? What have I forgot? Lord St. James. And they started their courtship, as it was, and he came back over to and she felt while she would not love him in the same way that she loved Frank, she would do his duty by him, by Saint James. Oh God, why is it suddenly Saint Francis? And she'd do a duty and wouldn't be upon it, and you could not imagine her surprise that when at the altar rails she glanced back and saw Frank sitting in the pews.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a shock.
Yeah, thought it was a ghost at first, and then determined it wasn't. She went as if to move towards him, but he put a finger to his mouth and tell her not to act, and then scribbled a note down. And that is why she dropped the bouquet, so that he could pass the note to her surreptitiously. Which is the note we saw.
Yeah. The very note.
And yes, the very note. In the dress that well, the dress had a pocket. In the pocket was a card case, and in the card case was a note. And this is that very note.
Yes.
Yeah. When they got back, she spoke to her maid, who knew Frank back in California, and had her pack a few things and get her ulster and bonnet ready. She knows she ought to have spoken to. It's Saint Simon anyway. It's not even Saint James. The Lord Saint spoken to Robert St. Simon, but due to the caliber of nobility about it, became hard, so she just ran.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like these aristocrats, they can have you killed. They'll find a way. So
yes,
I can understand the hesitance.
yeah. And after she slipped away, she was accosted by Flora, um, and from what she was saying, she gathered that Robert had his own little secrets from before their marriage.
Seb says, "Get your
Age.
saints in a row." It's not on the level of your
Yeah,
earlier pun, the
yes,
Bohemian
and
Rap subsidy.
yes, she caught up with Frank, and they took a cab to his lodgings, and it turns out he had been a prisoner of the Native Americans, and he had escaped, come to Fresno, found that he had been given up for dead, and that she had gone to England, and he came upon her on the very morning of her second wedding. He said, "I saw it in the paper." Gave the name in the church, but not where the lady lived. So he went to the church and followed them.
Yeah,
They discussed their options. Frank was all for openness and explaining the situation. She was for just running away, hiding, and then sending a line to her father later to say that she was all right, alive. I've
God damn it, Seb. He came upon her. I'm sure the new husband wouldn't be too happy about that.
that so Frank hid the wedding clothes and dropped them somewhere, place where they shouldn't be found. Where, of course, they were immediately found.
Yeah,
And they were preparing to go and be in Paris by the next day when Mr. Holmes came around and found them and explained in an unjudgy way the situation, and that it would be best to come forth and explain everything.
yeah. Well, for closure's sake, if nothing else.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
and
they did.
yeah. Robert St. Simon leaves in a bit of a strop. I'm going, "Excuse me, but it is not my custom to discuss my most intimate personal affairs in this public manner."
Yeah.
Yeah. And Holmes is like, "I had hoped that you would join us in a friendly supper. I think there you ask a little too much," responded his lordship. "I may be forced to acquiesce in these recent developments, but I can hardly be expected to make merry over them. I think with your permission, I will now wish you all a very good night."
Yeah, and
Concluded us all with a sweet bow and
I
stalked out of the room.
like, you know what? I get it. You know,
Yeah, yeah, no, it
he's
is
having a
very
shit
much.
day.
It is very much asking a jilted lover to sit down and have a meal with the one he was jilted with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, the fact he was still very polite and was willing to shake uh his not wife's hand was surprising.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's
Holmes.
about as magnanimous as you could expect anyone to be.
Yeah, Holmes then goes for Holmes and Watson then have dinner with the couple, and Holmes expresses that he believes that one day the Americas and the British will be united again under a single flag that is quartered between the Union Jack and I have the Star Spangled Banner.
You know,
So
I kind of hope not.
not at the moment, anyway.
Yeah,
Give it another couple of 100 years.
yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of the story is Holmes explaining how he figured it out, which is well, it seemed obvious that in the case of her running, that some other man would have a claim upon her already. That meant that she had to leave St. Simon, and how I located them was easy. I noticed that the boarding was expensive, so I went to the most expensive hotels, found one where it matched up, and there was a forwarding address for his post, so I just went there and hassled them until they came back over. The long and the short of it.
Yeah, basically. Of course,
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes. Well, this is. I'm a bit muddy on. This is before Scandal in Bohemia. I'm a bit muddy on the timeline of when it. Sorry, excuse me. Of when it was exactly. Sherlock Holmes developed a reputation in London for what he does.
Yeah, it's
Because there are people who know the name.
yeah. It seems that Holmes is well known amongst the nobility because he has done a couple of sensitive jobs, but he is not quite as well known amongst the people at this point.
Yeah.
That he is known to. Well, he'll have a bit of knowledge because he was already slightly known and had appeared and mentioned in a couple of papers before the study in Scarlet, and then
Yeah.
he got a mention in the solving of that case as well. And then of course Watson has been doing the publishing, but that's not till the next decade.
Yeah. So his name's got about a bit.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, it's mentioned that the study in Scarlet was published in the Sign of Four, so it seems Watson has been publishing from the off.
Yeah.
While also being a doctor and a married man, he's got his time for his writing. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you don't have things like television
Yeah.
and abhorrent hours.
And abhorrent what?
Work hours.
Ah. You cut out on the something there. I thought you said abhorrent something powers. And it's like, what
Abhorrent
powers do you
Austin
have?
Powers. No, Austin Powers, he is now truly abhorrent to us.
I haven't seen those films in ages, and I'm frightened too because I'm worried about how they'll hold up.
Yeah. Well, awfully. But yes. But that is the Noble Bachelor,
Yeah.
where it's just sort of like the woman he's married, supposedly dead husband, has come back from the dead,
Yeah.
and as it happens in a lot of things, it's just sort of like a situation could have been avoided if they had just talked.
Yeah.
You didn't have to hire a private investigator if you had just talked. The Holmes didn't seem to get paid for this one, and
No.
indeed seemed to put out a fair bit of money for a dinner.
Yeah. I mean that was expensive stuff.
Yeah. Then again, he does more than make up for it in the next one.
He does, yeah. He gets well compensated diegetically there. Seb says they hold up alright for light comedies with crude humour. Also, Bond copied Austin Powers for Spectre. I'm compelled to ask why, even though I may not like the answer.
Mm. Yes.
How
But,
so, I mean. But, yeah, this is about as straightforward as a Sherlock Holmes story gets, really. Blofeld being James Bond's jealous bro. Oh, yeah! That was a choice. God, they had Christoph Waltz for Blofeld, and that's what they did with it. That's a completely different topic.
Yeah, so we're going to have to get to that topic one day, perhaps if we read the James Bond books.
Oh, God, I don't think I want to, but maybe we will.
This might just be don't read. There's a summation of the entire James
List
Bond
of
series.
reasons why you should not read this book.
Yeah, don't read them. It was another time, and it is somehow much worse than the Arthur Conan Doyle mysteries when they talk about native islanders around India, which is still not brilliant.
I have heard, though I can't confirm, that the James Bond books were really bad even for the time.
Well, if they're worse than this and they're from much later, then yes.
Well,
Because, of course, they were written after the Second World War, so.
I wonder how long each James Bond book is, because that might be something we could do, but it's not something I particularly want to.
Yes, we will discuss in the future about that. Because we are currently one story in and nearly an hour 20.
Yeah, we should probably crack on with the Beryl Coronet.
Yes, the Beryl Coronet.
Beryl!
Once more, it's. Okay?
Sorry.
What happened? You just suddenly yelled.
No, I just went, Beryl!
Okay. Sorry, it just came out as oh.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. We start once more in 221B Baker Street. And Watson is looking out the window. It's like, there's a madman come along. It seems rather sad that his relatives should allow him to come out alone. Holmes just looks out of the window and goes, oh, he's coming to see us.
Oh, Lord.
And it's just sort of like, here, yes, I rather believe he's coming to consult me professionally. I think that I recognise the symptoms. Ah, did I not tell you? He spoke as the door, the hound is now the hound. The hounds have arrived early. We're not even at Baskerville yet. As the house is filled with the sound of the bell ringing in the man's desperation for attention.
Yeah. And
Yes, he is led into the room, still puffing, still gesticulating, but with so fixed a look of grief and despair in his eyes that our smiles were turned an instant to horror and pity. That is a look of despair, all right.
And Sherlock's like, you know what? Catch your breath. Your story will still be here by the time you've got your bearings of it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is after that in his desperation to try and get the words out of his failure, he starts headbutting the wall.
Yeah. Oh. Seb says, this is the second book that started with them looking out the window and dreading someone coming wanting to interact with them. Well, they are British.
We still do not like unexpected company.
It is the British way.
To be fair, we still don't often like expected company half the time. It's like, oh, why did I agree to this?
It's true.
Having people over or to going over someplace. It involves leaving the comfort of the home or inviting other people's in when I then have to leave the comfort of the bed. Yeah, and he finally gets some words out. No doubt you think me mad. Yes, Watson did.
Yeah.
And Holmes doesn't look at his friend in quite that way. I see that you have some great trouble, responds Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes is the sympathetic one of the two. This is often the case.
Whereas Watson looked at him and went, oh, some madman has been let out without escort. Holmes goes, oh, he's coming here. Get the chair ready. Yeah. And he goes on that he had some great horrible affair that has brought shame upon him and the public disgrace he may face. And he said that his character had never yet borne a stain.
So he's not a dickhead who looks like Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, that has been a theme of some of the things I've been noticing and emphasizing on throughout this series we've been doing. Sherlock Holmes is a deeply compassionate man.
Yes, he is. He is not as manipulative as Watson as other versions depict him as.
And
it's not outright manipulative, but more sort of giving an excuse in the Robert Downey Jr. ones, in the first one anyway.
yeah, I was saying to Dan earlier before you got here, Seb, one of the key differences I've noticed is in, Sherlock shows off for Watson, but he doesn't actually see what he does as anything particularly remarkable. He thinks everyone should be able to put things together like he does. He probably sees it a bit like reading.
Yes, and but if everyone did see the world like he did, he'd probably find it a much more boring world.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Uh,
There'd be a lot less
similarity-
crime because no one could get away with it.
Yeah, and similarity does not breed familiarity or indeed interest.
No.
So, yes. Yes, and so the man laments a bit, and then is finally dragged to pray compose yourself, sir, and let me have a clear account of who you are and what has befallen you. He reveals himself to be a banker by the name of Alexander Holder.
Never mind, get out. No.
Yeah.
No, that's not what he said.
Of one of the most respected banking institutions in London. Therefore, he is one of the most respected bankers in London. And I'm going to have to be careful while saying that because it is one letter difference to what everyone actually thinks he is. And Watson seems to think of it quite well. What could have happened then to bring one of the foremost citizens of London to this most pitiable pass? Which I'm assuming is the state he's in, not the rooms that he and Holmes are renting at the time. Because his marriage to Ruby isn't mentioned, it appears that this is before the last story.
That is an interesting comparison, sir. He says Bond is an awful fucker, let's make him nice for the movies. Sherlock is nice, let's make him an awful fucker in media.
Yeah. I feel that time is of value. That's why I hastened here when the police inspector suggested that I should secure your cooperation. Came to Baker Street by the underground and hurried from there on foot, for the cabs go slowly through this snow. Oh yes, it's another winter story, so snow is like ankle deep or higher, it seems.
Yeah. We don't get that anymore.
No.
I'm actually kind of glad about that. Snow's awful for me. Wheelchair user.
Yes.
It's like getting stuck in the mud. Any layer of snow on the ground. I'm basically immobile.
And also your hands will be beyond frozen.
Yep.
Trying to move your chair in that weather.
I just said he likes global warming. I said I like the absence of snow. I said I don't get on with snow. That is not an endorsement for global warming.
Yeah. I also like the absence of heat that will kill me.
Yes. I have a comfort zone when it comes to temperatures.
As do most humans.
Yeah.
Yours just has an additional practicality over most other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bet you want to frack in your face, I don't want any language. I say language when he doesn't swear, and I've definitely not had a go at him for saying cunt.
Yes. And that wasn't entirely the plan, but yes. a language that would make a Victorian gentleman faint or call the police on us. Which is the way. Yes, we are given the facts that the banking business that he has worked for has recently given out a huge loan to a gentleman of high station, and that he endeavours to repay the loan by the beginning of the day or the next Monday, but he has left something of high collateral to guarantee the loan. And it is the eponymous Beryl Coronet, a crown with 12 beryl gems around it, with no equal anywhere else in the world, apparently. Yeah, which is a public possession, which makes it sound like the bloomin' prince has come along because he's short a few bob. Yeah, and is waiting for It was Alfred who married Victoria, wasn't it? Prince Alfred, to pass on the
Yeah, I think so.
next month.
Wait, why do you go about at night stealing solar panels off people? How do you think I'm getting on a roof?
Yeah, but
There's a flaw in
the
your
amount
story.
yeah, the amount of money he's asked for is roughly 5 million nowadays, going by the calculations for the lowest figure in the last story. Yeah, and it's just a matter of.
Sorry,
and then
did you want me to put a number in the inflation calculator there?
If you want to, go ahead.
What was the number?
£50,000.
£50,000 in 1899 would be £5,454,086.94.
Yeah. And I made a mistake. There were 39 barrels, not 12. I don't know where I got 12 from, it turns out.
Yeah. Considerably more barrels.
Yes. But there's this wonderful moment where the noble figure goes to the banker. Is the security sufficient? And it's just like, ample. Well, of course, this is talking about the security against the loan, not the security of keeping one of the greatest public treasures of the empire safe. Yes.
Yeah.
So they handed over 50 £1,000 notes. They used to have proper notes back in the day. Imagine trying to get change for that.
Bloody hell, £1,000 note.
Yep. Closest we get to that now is £1,050 notes.
Imagine that slipping out of your pocket. Oof.
Yeah. It's just one
Probably
of those
why we don't
slipping out
have them.
Yeah. But the noble figure leaves the office, and the banker secures it in his personal safe at the office. Which, of course, at the end of the day, he's worried that it won't be safe while he's not there. So he takes it with him and locks it in the bureau in his dressing room. Which, I don't know if any of you have ever had a bureau and a safe. But a safe is much more secure than a bureau in a dressing room. I mean, one is made of metal and one is made of wood.
Yeah.
And one will have a much stronger lock on it. I wager you could probably get your way into a bureau with just a pair of scissors and just using leverage.
Yeah, if you were determined.
Yeah. And now we get an explanation of his household. He has a groom and a page, which do not sleep in the house. 3 maid servants, who he's had for a number of years, who are quite above suspicion. Another waiting maid that is new to the service, but is given satisfactory. the service, and he has a son, as he is a widower, and an adoptive daughter who is his niece. And his niece is an angel, and his son is a blackguard.
Yeah.
So his son's has fallen into bad company. The name is there somewhere. Sir George Burnwell.
He's fallen in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah, and is often asking for money and has gambling debts. And every time he tries to break away from the organisation, the exclusive gentlemen's club, that's Sir George Burnwell. Sir George Burnwell has got him in. He drags him back in. So of course he tells with a son who he considers a known blackguard. He mentions that he's got the Beryl Coronet in his bureau upstairs.
Oh dear.
Why?
I don't know
Why
why you
does
would.
It is idiotic. And yes, after this conversation, in which it's revealed that the son once openly admits to having broken into the bureau in the teen years with any key from the house. Any key from the house can open that old bureau, and he admits to doing it in his teen years. He then afterwards, while the father is going to start the rounds to make sure that every window and door to the outside is locked at the end of the day, he mentions he asks his father for an advance of £200, and his father reacts negatively and basically scolds him and sends him away.
You won't see penny one from me, you slag.
Yes. And then he,
Obviously, he
he's
doesn't say
doing
that.
Yeah, that is the spirit. He goes around and he checks in the windows, and during that he sees his niece, who normally does this during the night, close a window in the hallway and lock it. And they exchange pleasantries and good nights, and they all go off to bed. She mentions that the new maid, who is described as handsome and attracts callers and visitors to herself, has come in slightly late because she's been at the garden gate talking to someone. And this is not the first time she's seen it. The next thing we know from the man's attention is where is it? Just to remind himself, is that he wakes up in the middle of the night to see his son standing. He gets up and goes through and see his son standing in shirt and short and trousers, or like vest and trousers, basically night clothes, standing by his bureau with the coronet in his hand, and is straining with all his strength against it, twisting it, or so it seems. And he reacts appropriately calmly with, "You blackguard! You ne'er-do-well! You villain! You thief!
Yeah.
How dare you take that coronet?"
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not a bad time. I mean, that is not a good thing to be caught doing, like, if someone's just woke up.
Yeah. And he drops it, and at this point, when he picks it up, the father picks up, he notices that 3 of the barrels are missing, along with a section of gold that has been torn. And the son protests that if he has 5 minutes to look, he can sort this whole situation out. And the father's like, 5 minutes so you can make your getaway. No, Police! Police! And essentially has his own son arrested.
Well,
It-
I mean, 10 out of 10 for devotion to duty, but as we'll see, minus several million for acting rashly.
yes, and he comes to this, and Spectre's constable called to the house, take Arthur, his son, away. I believe his daughter is his niece is named Mary.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
Marys, I remember thinking when I was reading that bit.
Yeah. It is an easy name. Would make more sense if they were in Ireland.
Yep.
And yes, he tries to beg with his son that they're to reveal where the gems are, and confess where they are, and then like forgiveness can be done. But he's making it more heinous by not doing it. Oh yeah, something that was important. There was also the son is deeply in love with his cousin, and has indeed proposed marriage, and she shut him down.
I mean, she's his cousin.
Yeah, but yeah, whether they're first cousins or second cousins, it's not entirely made clear. But it is also sort of like the Moors have changed a bit since the time,
So
because second cousins can marry nowadays. Those are the children of cousins. So your parent. So it's like, in theory, you could marry the daughter of one of your mum or father's cousins.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
I'm from
that-
Somerset. This comes up surprisingly regularly.
I see.
Yeah, no, it's a slightly insular community, and it has happened more than once that people have found out that they are sort of related by only sort of two branches of the family tree apart. It's sort of like, but by the time you get to second cousins, there's like less than 3% shared DNA. So it's not like any of the side effects of inbreeding are going to occur.
Don't we share more DNA than that with a banana? Or is that something else I'm thinking of?
Technically, we should have similar DNA, 98% match to DNA in banana, but it's a very different sort of way of measuring it.
Yeah, I imagine it would be.
Yeah, because we cannot fertilize bananas, nor can we be fertilized by bananas. I hope that's true. Edit, because they can be very. But given that there hasn't been a banana human hybrid wandering around. Yes. Anyway, this has taken a rather disturbing turn all of a sudden.
Yeah. No, I gathered that when you said 3%, you meant in terms of blood relations.
But,
you don't just turn into some blob.
Yeah.
There was a banana human hybrid. It informed me that it was peanut butter jelly time.
Yes. I've also seen a dog banana hybrid doing much the same thing to entertain an adult man with green trousers and balls on his chin.
Yes.
Yeah. But yes, so the son is being processed and prosecuted by the police. The father has put out £1,000 reward for the return of the gems, and Holmes is asking about what company comes to the house. As a sort of like, not really. Sir George Burnwell has been a few times lately. No one else. Oh, really? And Do you go out much in society? Arthur does. Mary and I stay at home. Neither of us care for it. That is unusual for a young girl. She is of a quiet nature. Besides, she is not so very young. She is 24. She is blazing it.
Very good. But 24 is still quite young.
Yes,
I suppose it
we
wouldn't have
must
been
remember.
thought so at the time.
We must remember this is a time where 10-year-olds was too old to do work in the chimney. So
Yeah.
Even with the sizes of the chimneys.
What the
Yeah.
fuck? Who's 4? No, 4 and 20. It's an old-timey way of saying 24.
Yes. It is also very similar to the French way of saying 80. 420s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and yeah, and they ask the matter has shook her also. Oh, terrible! She's even more affected than I, and you have no doubt of your son's guilt. How can? And we have, when I have seen with my, when I saw him with my own eyes, holding the coronet.
I mean, there are several explanations, or several possible explanations for that.
Yeah. And Holmes indeed does this. I hardly consider that a conclusive proof.
Yeah. A lot of what these stories are is, here's what it looks like, here's the another way of interpreting that leads to a different outcome.
Here's Sherlock Holmes.
Much of the mystery genre, really. Sorry.
Yeah. And here's Sherlock Holmes doing it in the wonderful lawyer tradition from Blackadder, the finest legal mind in Britain.
Yeah.
Guessing the man who said, "I'm glad I killed the bastard" off. He was still holding the knife. 16 witnesses saw him stab the man, and when the police arrived, he said, "Bastard." Not only did he get him off, but he got the relatives of the dead man to pay to have the blood cleaned out of his jacket.
Yeah.
But at this point, Holmes asks, was there any other damage to the coronet? Yes, it was twisted. Do you not think, then, that he might have been trying to straighten it? God bless you, you are doing what you can for him and me, but it's too heavy a task. What was he doing with it at all? If he was innocent, why did he not say so? Precisely. If he were guilty, why did he not invent a lie? His silence could cut both ways.
That's Sherlock saying be logical about this, but also you can't blame the man for thinking what he does. But I like that he just assumes that Sherlock is trying to be nice.
Yes. Yes, and what did the police think of the noise woke you in the night? They thought it was Arthur closing his door. A likely story, as if a man bent on felony would slam his door so as to wake a household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And, what of the disappearance of the gems? The police are searching plank and furniture as we speak. Translation: my house is being ripped apart, oh God.
yeah. Unnecessarily, it will turn out.
And have you thought to look outside the house? They have shown extraordinary energy. The whole garden has been minutely examined. Yeah. It appears to you that this is a simple case, but to me it seems exceedingly complex. Consider what is involved in your theory. I suppose your son came down from his bed, went at great risk to your dressing room, opened your bureau, took out your coronet, broke off by main force a small portion of it, went off to put some other place, concealed 3 gems out of the 39 with such skill that nobody can find them, and then return with the other 36 into the room in which he exposed himself to the greatest danger of discovery. Now, I ask you, how is this theory tenable? What is there? If his motives were innocent, why does he not explain them? It is our task to find that out. And now, if you please, Mr. Holder, we will set off with Streatham together and devote an hour to glancing a little more closely into details.
Yeah.
Holmes drags Watson on to these examinations, and Watson was eager enough, for he was curious and sympathetic to the deeply. His curiosity basically dragged him along.
Yeah.
If he was a cat, it would have killed him, but the satisfaction at the end would have brought him back, as the full saying goes.
Yeah.
Watson agrees with the banker that the guilt is obviously with the son, because how else could it be? But then it's just like, well, Sherlock says no, so let's try it.
Yeah. Well, what Sherlock is saying is, yeah, I know what it looks like, but these details here do not make sense. Until everything makes sense, we can assume nothing. Yeah, and that's all he's saying. He's not saying he's wrong. He's saying there's more to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they make their way into the to the house where Holmes starts conducting his investigations. There, but just before he can start, they are greeted by Mary, who is protesting Arthur's innocence, and it's like, oh, do take my word for it that he is innocent. Let the matter drop and say no more. It is dreadful to think of our dear Arthur in prison. But he refuses. It's saying that her affection for Arthur blinds her to the awful consequences. I have brought a gentleman down to investigate upon this. This gentleman? No, his friend. He wished us to leave him alone. He is around in the stable lane now. It's just like, just go away, let me do my thing. And he comes back and says to her, I fully share your opinion and trust with you that we may prove it.
Yeah. Well, Sherlock, as he says, doesn't make assumptions.
Yes.
He just extrapolates from all the data he has, which explains in his process why he's so unwilling to believe that the son did it. Because, well, as I say, there is data there that does not add up.
Yeah. Yeah, forgot to carry the Y. He then starts interrogating the niece, like, did she hear anything before, what did she hear last night? Just the uncle talking loudly, and that's when she appeared. Did she lock all the windows? Yes. Were they still fastened this morning? Yes. The maid with a sweet... maid, does she actually have a sweetheart? Yes. She was the girl who was in the drawing room and may have heard the uncle's remark about the coronet. Yes. Yes. You infer that she may have done the robbery with the sweetheart. But these are all vague theories, cried the banker impatiently. When I have told you that I saw Arthur with the coronet in his hand. Wait a little, Mr. Holder. We must come back to that. About this girl, Miss Holder. Saw her at the kitchen door, I presumed? Yes, when I went to see if the door was fastened for the night, so I met her slipping in. I saw the man, too, in the gloom. You know him? Oh, yes, he is the greengrocer. Francis Prosper. He stood to the left of the door, that is to say, further up the path than it's necessary to reach the door. Yes, and he has a man with a wooden leg, and she's just sort of like, what, you are a magician? How do you know that? And Holmes just smiles.
I should be very glad now to go upstairs. I shall probably wish to go over the outside of the house again. Perhaps I had better take a look at the windows before I go up.
Yeah.
And he goes around looking at them, pausing only at the large one where the father saw Mary bolting up at the night before, and he examines it with his examines the sill with his magnifying glass. So before they head into the banker's chambers. I forgot his name. It seems.
Well, Holder. Someone Holder.
Yeah, the banker will do.
I mean, the text refers to him as the banker a lot, so.
Yeah, or the financier a lot as well, to make him seem nicer than he is. But they go upstairs and they enter the banker's chambers, and they find the room, the large bureau, and stuff, and yes, and Holmes opens the bureau using the key and examines. It is a noiseless lock. No wonder it didn't wake you. This case, I presume, contains the coronet. You must have a look at it. Holmes going, I want to see the shiny, but it is also evidence that he wants to see the data.
I would like to see the shiny.
Yes, I would like to see the coronet. And yes, and he's examining it, and it says they are and Watson remarks they are amongst the finest stones he has ever seen. Or they are the finest stones he's ever seen, and it's a magnificent specimen of the jeweler's art. And he's just sort of like yes, and Holmes almost said, yes, here's the broken section. Would you care to break some more off, Mr. Holder? Essentially, he says, I would not dream of it. And Holmes goes,
then I will.
Yeah, so then I will. And he tries to bend it back into shape. He's like, I feel it give a little, but though I am exceptionally strong in the fingers, it would take me all my time to break it. A ordinary man could not do it. Now, what do you think would happen if I did break it, Mr. Holder? There would be a noise like a pistol shot. Do you tell me that this happened within a few yards of your bed and that you heard nothing?
And at this point, like, I get that he says, I don't know what to think. So I get that he's realized that that he didn't really have the right of it, even if he doesn't know what the right of it is.
And Holmes then inquires, was your son wearing shoes or shoes or slippers? No, he was barefoot, and it's just sort of like, what luck. We have been extraordinary luck. And it'll be entirely our own fault if we do not succeed in clearing the matter up. With your permission, Mr. Holder, I shall now continue my investigations outside. Where Holmes then looks around in the snow. After saying, no one come with me. I do not need unnecessary shoe mark.
Yeah.
And then he comes back in after a while. I think that I have seen now all that there is to see, Mr. Holder. I can serve you best by returning to my rooms. But the gems, Mr. Holmes, where are they? I cannot tell. I shall never see them again. And my son, you give me hopes? My opinion is in no way altered. Then, for God's sake, what was this dark business which was acted on my house last night? Call upon me at Baker Street rooms tomorrow morning. Then, between 9 and 10, I shall be happy to do what I can to make it clearer. I understand that you give me carte blanche to act for you, provided all that I get back the gems, provided only that I get back the gems, and that you place no limit on the sum I may draw. Would give my fortune to have it back. Very good. I shall look into this matter between this and then. Goodbye. It's just possible I may have to come here over the evening, before evening.
He has secured a blank check.
Yeah. Now, they do return back to Baker Street, and Holmes comes out shortly thereafter, dressed as a common loafer.
And
flat cap, kind of. There's a picture of it in the book.
yeah, with his collar turned up, his shiny, seedy coat, his red cravat, and his worn boots, he was a perfect sample of the class.
All the illustrations in the book I've got were apparently from the original Strand magazine when they were.
Yeah, came out
Yeah.
and stuff.
A loafer on Baker Street.
Yeah,
Very good. So,
indeed. Yes, Holmes checks the look in the mirror, quickly makes a beef sandwich to take with him because they just have hunks of cooked and cured meats just sitting on the sideboards. And then starts off in his expedition saying that he will be back in a few hours. He returns just after Watson had finished his tea in excellent spirit, swinging some an old boot around, which he chucked into the corner and helped himself to a cup of tea. He was just I only looked in as I passed. I will be going right on to the other side of the West End, and maybe some time. Don't wait up. I shall be late.
I may be
How are you
sometime. Those are ominous words.
Yeah. How are you getting on? Oh, so. Nothing to complain of. I have been out to back there since I left, but I did not call at the house. It is a sweet little problem, and I would not have missed it for a good deal.
Yeah.
I've not sick gossiping here, but must have these disrespectful clothes off and return to my highly respectable self. So he changes clothes, heads out again, and I believe it has gone 12 when he gets back. Well, Watson waited until midnight and there was no sign of his return, so he retired to his chamber, and in the morning, Holmes is there, coffee in one hand, paper in the other, and fresh as trim as possible, probably coked off his tits. Sorry,
Yeah.
to borrow from Buckbeak, I don't care, Watson, I'm coked off my tits.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Excuse me for beginning without you, Watson, but you remember that a client has rather an early appointment this morning." "Why, it is after 9 now. I should not be surprised if he was here. I thought I had a ring." And he was indeed. The financier is out the front, and then he drops into the armchair when he gets in. And he decries what he is. He wonders what he has done to have such a run of bad luck, for now his niece has deserted him. Deserted you? Yes, her bed this morning had not been slept in, her room was empty, and the note lay upon the hall table. And the note reads, "My dearest uncle, I fear that I've brought trouble upon you, and that if I had acted differently, this terrible misfortune might never have occurred. I cannot, with this thought in my mind, ever again be happy under your roof, and I feel that I must leave you forever. Do not worry about my future, for that is provided for, and above all, do not search for me, for it will be fruitless labor, and an ill service to me. In life or death, I am ever your loving Mary."
Well, that's.
He wonders if it is a suicide note, and Holmes is like, "Oh no, it's nothing of the kind. It is perhaps for the best, I think. And Mr. Holder, you are nearing the end of your trouble." Also, he's like, "Ha, if you say so. You heard something, Mr. Holmes? Where are my gems? You would not think £1,000 apiece an expensive sum for them? I would pay 10. That would be unnecessary. 3,000 will cover the matter, and there is a little reward, I fancy. Have you your checkbook? Here is a pen. Better make it out for 4,000.
Yeah.
The banker makes out the check, and once it's done, Holmes just pulls out from his desk a little triangular piece of gold with 3 gems and just throws it down on the table. And the client shrieks with joy. a noise not commonly heard at 221B Baker Street. An ejaculation of astonishment, but not shrieks of joy.
Yeah. By the way, that's the equivalent of about 110 grand in today's money. The £1,000 he asked for in reward.
Yeah. Yeah, so, he's just all like, I am saved, I am saved. And Sherlock's like, there is one other thing you owe, Mr. Holder. Oh, he caught up the pen. Name the sum and I will pay it. No, the debt is not to me. You owe a very humble apology to that noble lad, your son, who has carried himself in this matter as I should be proud to see my own son do, should I ever chance to have one.
He won't.
Yeah, it's not Arthur who took them. I told you yesterday and repeat today that it was not. You are sure of it? Then let us hurry to him at once to let him know that the truth is known. He knows it already. When I had cleared it all up, I had an interview with him, and finding that he would not tell me the story, I told it to him. And on which he had to confess that I was right and to add the few details which were not yet clear to me. Your news this morning, however, may open his lips. For heaven's sakes, tell me, what is this extraordinary mystery? I will, and I will show you what I did to do it. And let me say to you first that it is hardest for me to say and for you to hear that there has been an understanding between Sir George Burnwell and your niece Mary. They have now fled to Gary. To Gary? Together.
Where's
They've
Gary?
now fled to Gary. Where's Gary? I believe it's someone mistaking dairy in Ireland. To Gary.
It is unfortunately more than possible. It is certain. Yeah.
Neither you or your son knew what this man was really like when you admitted him to your family circle. He is one of the most dangerous men in England, a ruined gambler, and a desperate villain, a man without heart or conscience. Your niece, however, was a bit naive. Because, of course, she didn't mess with society, so she knew nothing of a man who was a cheat and a liar and a scoundrel.
No.
Oh.
He's a cheat and a swindler.
Yeah. When he breathed his vows to her, as he had done to 100 before, she flattered herself that he alone had touched his heart. The devil knows what he said, but at least she became his tool and was in the habit of seeing him near every evening. Cannot and will not believe it. But she of course, was the perfect child. I will tell you what occurred at your house last night. When you had retired to your bed, your niece slipped down and spoke through the window to her lover and let her know. And talked to her lover through the window, which leads to the stable lane. His footmarks were there in the snow, which had been preserved by the ice and the lack of more snowfall. So they had gone through to the pavement, basically. She told him of the coronet, and his wicked lust for gold kindled at the news, and he bent her to his will. As is a horrible collection of lines.
Yeah.
I have no doubt she loved you, but a woman in romantic love forgets all other loyalties and loves, and they get overpowered.
I'm not sure that's how that works, but okay.
But let's also be honest, Holmes' understanding of women is quite limited.
Yeah, this is true.
He hasn't met the woman yet.
No, it would appear not.
We assume he hasn't met the woman yet in this one. And she hardly had listened to the instructions when you came down and disturbed her, and she told you about the servant's escapades with her wooden-legged lover, which are all perfectly true. Yes, your boy had gone to bed after your interview, quote unquote, aka argument, and but didn't sleep on account of his club debts. In the middle of the night, he heard a soft tread pass his door and rose, and looking out was surprised to see his cousin walking very stealthily into your dressing room. Petrified with astonishment, the lad slipped on some clothes and waited there in the dark to see what would come of this strange affair. She emerged, and in light of the passageway, he saw that she carried the precious coronet in her hand. Passed down the stairs, and he, thrilled with horror, or thrilling with horror, followed her, and slipped behind the curtain near your door, where he saw her stealthily open the window, hand over the coronet to someone in the gloom, and then closing it once more, hurry back to her room, in passing his hiding spot. But he could not tell of what truly happened without exposing the woman he loved, or confronting the scene without horrible exposure to her. But as soon as she was past, he ran out, opened the window, jumped through it barefoot, chased after Sir George Burnwell, and caught him. There was a struggle with the lads each holding one side of the coronet, and in the scuffle, your son struck Sir George and cut him above the eye. And the coronet suddenly snapped, with your son finding that thinking he had all of it, rushed back inside, closed the window, and ascended to your room. And he observed the coronet had been twisted and was endeavouring to straighten it when you woke up and started accosting him. Is it possible? Then, aroused by the anger by you calling him names, when he felt he should be deserved your warmest thanks, he could not explain the true state of affairs without dobbing in the woman he loved. Mary, of course, fainted when she saw the coronet because it was a great supply and she knew she was in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mr. Holder realised that that's why it, and didn't have to have it pointed out. And he realised that why the son wanted to go out for 5 minutes was to find the missing piece from the struggle. And he laments how cruelly he mistreated his son.
Yeah. And I mean, you can understand why he did, given what he saw. You can also understand the son being, like, really salty about that treatment. It's like, this is what I get for being nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Holmes then goes through how he worked out all the footprints, noted the wet outline of a bare foot upon the windowsill, in the snow and on the garden and all of that.
My brain went to a bear's paw print when you said barefoot. I don't know why.
Yes.
What?
Because I said bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the 50-50, that goes to a dog's foot in your case, because you have a dog called.
Yeah. Although he is roughly the size of a bear these days. Well, no, not really, but he is quite big.
Yeah, especially after yesterday. But yeah, he noted that there were 2 sets of boot prints in the snow, one going to and one going from the house. The footprints have been worked into the snow by the.
I just
window.
noticed another pun joke.
Go on.
What does a knight call a girl he's had a fling with?
A Galahad.
A Galahad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, examined the road and overseed it and found and he worked out who the individual who would have been stealing the coronet was from evidence, and tracked him down. And he mentions I believe it's the first time he mentions "'Tis an old maxim of mine that when you have excluded the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth."
There it is.
Yeah.
Uh, that is a line
Yeah.
for which Sherlock Holmes is well known.
Yes. And Holmes is deducting, explains how he deduced that it was Mary who had betrayed his confidence, and therefore who Mary would be working with most likely, which he
Yeah.
confirmed by while dressed as the loafer by managing to buy a discarded boot that had once belonged to Sir George, and he concluded that it was Mary because, well, it wouldn't have been the father himself, because he would have easily been able to just steal the coronet if that was the objective. It wasn't the son because he brought it back, and it wouldn't be any of the maids because the son would not protect them in the same way you would the cousin. So it must be the cousin, so it must be a love interest, and who's the only man that she regularly sees. Why, it is this nefarious blackguard, Sir George.
Yeah. Process of elimination.
Especially when and it was reported that she fainted at the sight of the coronet. Yes, so of course she was as involved, and her associate was Sir George Burnwell, a man that Sherlock had heard of as having an evil reputation amongst women.
Seb says, I think it was also paraphrased in the X-Files. I wouldn't be surprised, as well, we discussed earlier, I told Dan about how, because the first story was quite simplistic and easy to pin down, we talked about how basically everything in the procedural genre has its DNA somewhere in Sherlock Holmes. And
go on.
well, I mentioned, when I watched The Matrix for the first time, you saw it with me, and the whole swooping camera trick thing looked really kind of cliche, even though we knew that this was where it came from.
Yes, and I must say the line appears twice in Star Trek that I'm aware of. Once in the J.J. Abrams films, where Spock says, when you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. He states that, and I believe that is him deducing that Nero's ship is from the future. It says that, and Leonard Nimoy's Spock says it's an original ancestor, but he says as an original series, but he says, as an ancestor of mine used to say, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true. Implying that in Star Trek, Sherlock Holmes was a person and is a distant ancestor of Spock.
He was a Vulcan.
Well, Spock's half human, remember?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I was never sure whether that was just a J.J. Abrams thing, because I wasn't very familiar with the original series. Or any of them,
Spock
for that matter. The J.J. Abrams reboot
Spock
was my first... Sorry.
Yeah, Spock has always been half human and has always had a habit of hiding his family. For example, we didn't know that his parents were still alive until they came on board the Enterprise. And he said, and they were like the ambassador from Vulcan and his wife, carry on for some important negotiations. And the first any of them knew that they were Spock's parents, was Spock admitting, was being asked something along the lines of, so you know the Vulcan ambassador and his family? It's like, yes, that is my father and his wife. Father and his mother. And then a reveal in one of the films that, yes, he actually has a brother as well, called Cybok. And then Discovery, he has an adopted sister as well. It was just sort of like, yeah, Spock doesn't explain his family tree, like, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, yes, what were you saying?
The point of the whole diatribe was that in terms of influence, Sherlock Holmes has many descendants.
Yes, yes. Many of them that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle would look at and go, "How the did they get to this from that?"
Yeah.
And then in one of them, "That's not how the study in starlet's meant to go. They are not meant to be." Oh, for God's sake! Princess Briding this situation.
Yeah.
One is poison, one is not.
And of
Does it
course,
justify
because of course, the first thing you do when you bring Arthur Conan Doyle back to life is show him The Princess Bride, because he hasn't seen it, and you can't let that stand.
Yeah, no, I just imagine that before he watches his own adaptations, he just watches other popular things. Because remember, he didn't like writing Sherlock Holmes, reportedly. So of course he'd watch The Princess Bride before he watched any of the adaptations. That is a well-loved story.
Indeed.
And it's not got Sherlock Holmes in it. Yes, where were we? Ah, yes, he had deduced that Sir George was the man who had stolen the 3 barrels and the gold. And, well, dressed as a vagabond, and Mr. Holder recalls spotting a vagabond in the side street by the stable street by his house, where Holmes did some more investigating.
Yeah.
And he goes and he decides that a prosecution must be avoided to avoid scandal, or from the damage done to the man's reputation, Mr. Holder's reputation, and to the coronet and the royal who lent it, of course.
Yeah.
Also, so Holmes tracked the villain down and in a quiet location, and Sir George denied it. Then Sherlock explained everything. He tried to bluster his way out of it and took a life preserver from the wall. But Holmes was ahead of him, and he clapped a pistol against Sir George's head and offered him £1,000 per gem to have it returned. And Sir George, just his grief goad out, and he was just like, "Why, dash it all! I let them go at 600 for the free. This man should have known and he cheated himself out of nearly £2,500 by selling it quickly."
Yeah.
Holmes then gets the address of the person he sold it to out of him quickly enough, because as gun to head and on promising there would be no prosecution, and off he set, and he then manages to get the stones from the person that from the fence for 1,000 apiece. And then he checked in on the son, told him that everything was all right, and then went home and went to bed at 2:00. After what I may call a really hard day's work.
Yeah. Oh.
To be fair, this is the one where he's done the most in the least amount of time.
Yeah,
Like, there have
he
been
was
plenty of
moving
other
about
things.
a bit.
Yeah, there were 2 changes of clothes in this, an investigation, and threatening by gunshot.
And bribery.
Yes. And a day which has saved England from a great public scandal, said the banker. "Sir, I cannot find words to thank you, but you shall not find me ungrateful for what you have done. Your skill has indeed exceeded all that I have heard of it. And now I must fly to my dear boy to apologize to him for the wrong for which I have done to him. And as to what you tell me of poor Mary, it goes to my very heart. Not even your skill can inform me where she is now." "I think that we may safely say," Holmes returned, "that she is wherever Sir George Burnwell is. It is equally certain, too, that whatever her sins are, they will soon receive a more than sufficient punishment."
I mean, that's actually kind of ominous.
I think the implications are that she will become a ruined woman, as in she will be abandoned, destitute, and she can't go to any of her friends or anything. Not that Sir George Burnwell is going to kill her or anything.
I mean,
Because if
I'd
that were
say
the case,
both
I
are
think,
more than she deserves.
yeah, I think if the killing was the case, Holmes might actually devote energy to hunting him down.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah. But also, she was taken in by the guy. I mean, she did what she did, but I mean, by their own logic, if they consider the influence of a man a woman is in love with an overpowering, an overpowering influence, then anything she does because of that is not really her fault, by their logic.
yeah. So, but
Unless, of course, they're enacting an incredible double standard, whereas she is not in control of her actions, but she is still responsible for them.
yes, I would not be entirely surprised if that were the case.
Yeah.
But, the double standards. Yes, that is the Beryl Coronet. What do you think of that one? Because we didn't actually ask it at the beginning what we thought of this one.
Yeah. No, I did quite like this one. I expected the son to be innocent because they assume he's guilty at the beginning, and usually how this goes is the assumption at the beginning is wrong. But it was enjoyable to find out exactly the process by which he figured out that he was innocent, what the actual story was. As I say, that last line made me a tiny bit sad for the character because of what I just said.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. She's an innocent girl, a naive girl who's been taken in by the blackguard Shuckster and Conman.
Who knew exactly what he was doing, except when it came to fencing the jewels.
Yeah. Evidently, he just wanted them out of his possession quickly in case Arthur did spill the beans.
And by fencing, that's the term meant for selling stolen goods. And he didn't sword fight a bunch of barrels.
Yeah. Which would mean poor women just being randomly attacked by a man charging at them with a sword.
Yeah.
So it would support his foul reputation amongst the women of London.
It would.
Don't be called Beryl, or if for goodness sake, if you call Beryl, don't go anywhere near him. Why? He'll stab you with a sword and run down the street, challenging other women to sword fights.
Fencing the jewels also sounds like a euphemism. Oh, that's cool, Seb.
Of course, you say that's cool, Seb, right after you read out the euphemism once, completely missing.
No.
It is
he's heard back from the historian, asked if he'd be free for a Zoom call. Yeah, let me know how that goes. I should probably, for the sake of clarity, as we are on air, clarify what I was referring to.
Yes, but yes, I enjoyed the Beryl Coronet as well. Again, it's probably from a bit of we've read a lot of these stories very quickly together, where it's the thing you'd think of, or the most obviously sort of character of, oh, this person clearly did it, obviously didn't do it.
Yeah.
So it did sort of, now my Mary, who is perfect in every way, is like, well, she's involved.
Yep. She's either, well, at minimum, at best she's involved, and at worst she's guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yes, the Beryl Coronet, it is a nice one. I don't know where I would actually rate it amongst these stories. Actually, I don't know where I'd rate most of these stories, but I would probably say A Scandal in Bohemia is probably quite high up on there. Out of sort of like, where would I place all of these? Oh, Oh, okay. It's not another Mary. It's a. Yeah, and the next one. Sorry, I just skimmed a tiny bit of the next text, and I saw another Mary.
Ah.
Has anyone lost a Mary in
Yeah.
Ireland? People are always losing Marys in Ireland.
A forest of hands shot up. Darrow Breen.
Yeah, people are always losing Marys in Ireland. One or two of them lost a Mary along the way, on the way over that evening. Marys falling out of your pockets and getting lost down the sofas whenever you sit down. Yes, that's the Beryl Coronet. A banker is relieved to learn that his scoundrel son is not actually that much of a scoundrel compared to his angelic niece, who is now going to be, at best, most likely a destitute, ruined woman who cannot return to her beloved uncle. Quite possibly living in the slums of a northern city by that point.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine Arthur Conan Doyle would have particularly thought that at the outskirts of a northern industrial city was a place for a woman to live on their own. Or indeed for anyone of any form of nobility or indeed just wealth to live.
Yeah.
Now that still holds to a certain extent nowadays with people who are less posh than Victorian middle class.
Yeah. I did once here it was a Frankie Boyle stand-up show. He references Agatha Christie, and he says that her whole formula is there's a guy that looks like he's obviously done it. She goes to great pains to prove that he couldn't possibly have done it, and then it turns out that he did it, which is just like one more step than what we've been seeing with this one.
Yes. Yeah.
So a subversion of Sherlock Holmes. Well, I don't know what the good word. A subversion of the tropes codified by Sherlock Holmes, or at least I assume by Sherlock Holmes. I've read nothing earlier.
Yes.
So I don't know what Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's influences would have been, but given that Sherlock Holmes is basically the most famous character ever, we can assume that he did a lot of things for the first time, or at least that's my conjecture.
Yes, because Agatha Christie would have been born 2 years before The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes came out.
Yeah, so she probably grew up on these stories.
Yeah.
They would have been new when she... Oh, that's interesting to think about, isn't it? I've been looking at these, like... I mean, obviously I intellectually know that these stories were new at some point, but to imagine growing up while they were being published it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like that moment in The Falcon and Winter Soldier where it's just sort of like, so you know about Gandalf? Yes, I read The Hobbit when it first came out in 1936. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, we forgot A, it came out at some point, and B, Bucky is old. Yeah, Tolkien himself would have probably been growing up on these, because he's, I now have to look that up.
Yeah.
When was Tolkien
I'm sure we'll
born?
get to plenty of Tolkien.
Yeah, Tolkien was in fact 2 years younger than Agatha Christie. He would have been born in the same year that that The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes came out. As in this collection of 12 short stories, not the first Sherlock Holmes book.
Oh, wow.
Which, yeah. Yeah, again, you don't think of it.
No.
Life is bizarre.
Except it's like being our age and remembering The Phantom Menace coming out. I mean, yeah, I suppose that's a comparable situation.
Well, or talking to our grandkids about The Phantom Menace coming out, and then going, wow, you're old. But also sort of like, no, it wasn't that recently, was it? There
What
are
do you
people
mean?
alive.
Those are new.
Yeah, I'm talking like from our theoretical grandchildren's perspective,
Yeah.
not our perspective. And we're going, they're not that old.
Revenge of the Sith is
They're only
20 years old this year.
Yeah, they're only 12 years older than the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, Revenge of the Sith is Revenge of the Sith's only 10 years older than the sequel trilogy. That was a long 10 years. Suddenly thinking about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got somewhat sidetracked. Well, we still have an entire story, and we're about what 2.5 hours in.
Yeah.
2 hours 30.
Oh, Seb said, when Sherlock Holmes first came out, Stephen Moffat was furious because he could no longer make vague insinuations of his sexuality to thrill audiences. I'll let you have that one. That was... yeah. I mean, Sherlock, the BBC series, does queer bait a fair bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but does also have him be beaten by a dominatrix.
Yeah, with nebulously established kung fu skills.
Mm.
Or
Well,
at least someone who's bloody handy with that riding crop.
Yeah, no, Irene Adler beats up Sherlock after drugging him and then uses a riding crop. That's how she beats him up. It's just sort of like he's not at his absolute peak.
Yeah.
He had also been punched by Watson earlier.
Yeah, although that was on purpose.
No, I need you to punch me. Sorry.
Okay.
What did you understand? I need you to... Yeah. No, I need punch me. I'm just checking that I heard you right.
Yeah. Now I will give Stephen Moffat this. That exchange of dialogue was very funny. Punch me in the face. What did you say? I said punch me in the face, didn't you hear me? And he goes, I always hear punch me in the face when you talk, but it's usually subtext.
I can kill you. You were a doctor, a military doctor, which means I can break every bone in your body whilst naming them.
Yeah. I mean, I will give Stephen Moffat that he could come up with some fun dialogue.
Yes. Well, Mark Gatiss was also working with him, who was also reasonably good at the fun dialogue.
Yeah.
Granted, Mark Gatiss also wanted to be on the other side of the camera at the same time, so he was Mycroft. A character who is still not mentioned yet, interestingly.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had Mrs. Hudson introduced. Well, referenced.
Lestrade has appeared 3 times and referenced once.
Yeah.
Gregson's appeared once. Peterson's appeared twice. Yeah, but Irene Adler's made her one and only appearance. Moriarty hasn't appeared yet, but I think he only appears in 2 overall.
Yeah, I have heard that he's in 2 of them, and one of them will be the final problem, won't it? Because he's famous for, quote-unquote, killing Sherlock in that one.
Yes, I would have thought that would have been the death of Sherlock Holmes. Isn't one
Yeah,
of them
you're probably right. I've
misremembered.
Yeah, that's probably my goof.
Before we go on to the story, I just spotted something for a quick comparison. Arthur Conan Doyle mostly did short stories for Sherlock Holmes and 4 novels. Let's contrast this with Agatha Christie, who did 14 short stories and 66 novels.
Good lord.
She wrote more short stories than Conan Doyle wrote novels, and then more novels than Conan Doyle wrote short stories on Sherlock Holmes.
Good lord, she was productive.
Yes, she was. And it's no wonder that she's like they're still being adapted today. Like there was what in the last 3 years an adaptation of Murder on the Orient Express with Daisy Ridley as one of them.
Yeah, I saw that in theatres. It wasn't bad. And
Yeah.
I've never read Agatha Christie, so I didn't actually know what the answer to the mystery was.
I knew on that one, but I did read it for a creative writing course.
I've still
We
got
were
to
told
watch the
to-
second Knives Out movie. This has just reminded me.
For my course, we were told to.
Yes, you did,
we were
Seb.
all given told to read a book we haven't read from it. So I just went to the library, having been giving murder mysteries, and and then I apparently rather lazily went A or C, depending on how the library was read. And Murder on the Orient Express. Always wanted to know how that went.
Yeah. Oh, Seb says he still
So-
hasn't seen the first Knives Out. Mate, you would love it.
It very much is up your alley, I would say.
Daniel Craig sounds like Foghorn Leghorn. It's brilliant.
Yeah, Daniel Craig is playing a Southern detective, a gay Southern detective, and is having the time of his life. He's called Benoit Blanc.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, we've got one more story to get through, which we probably should because it's already midnight.
It has taken us an average of an hour 20 to get through stories
That
tonight.
would take an hour to read aloud.
Yeah. Yes, please note that this is now, these two are longer than we spent on either The Side of the Fort or The Study in Scarlet.
I read these stories, all three of them, in 1 hour. So,
Yes, and I'm averaging less than an hour for each of them, so we really, our side tracks are really going on.
yeah. The Copper Beeches, when the fat policeman goes surfing and it all goes wrong. Oh.
Right, the Copper Beeches can be summed up so quickly if we just skip over any of like the interesting detail.
Yeah.
But we are here.
You
There
can
is
see where a
detail.
lot of tropes come from in this one, particularly. It's got kind of a horror vibe, psychological horror vibe.
Yes, but we start in 221B, where Holmes is lamenting the nature of art and how there is. He has a bit of a go at Watson for how he writes the books again, making them sensationalist or emotional, and he also laments at the same time the distinct lack of cases they've been getting. He does, however, state that crime is common, logic is rare, and he
That basically
laments the
sums up Sherlock Holmes to a T, doesn't it?
Yes. He does lament sort of like the quality of mysteries that have been brought to him, because it's just sort of like he's being that very people are messaging him for very trivial sort of stuff and opinions of things that is just sort of like he thinks he's hit rock bottom because of that. Is just sort of like as to my own little practice, it seems to be disintegrating into an agency of recovering lost lead pencils and giving advice to young ladies from boarding school. I think that I have touched bottom at last. However, this note I had this morning marks my zero point, I fancy. Read it! Dear Mr. Holmes, I am very anxious to consult you as to whether I should or should not accept a situation which has been offered to me as governess. I shall call at 10:30 tomorrow if you do not, if I do not inconvenience you. Yours faithfully, Violet Hunter.
Is it ever
And it's
explained
just like-
why Sherlock sleeps without any bed sheets? If that's a joke, I don't understand. Is it established that Sherlock Holmes sleeps without bed sheets?
It has not been mentioned at all. I assume Seb's leading up to a punchline.
I'll let you know.
Yes. But,
Oh, that's not. If that's not in the books, then why do they call him No Sheet Sherlock? Oh God. Even for you.
We've reached our 0 point on Seb's punnage.
He
Oh,
asked
dear.
earlier in the stream if we'd reached the book where they say "no shit, Sherlock."
No, not yet.
No, I don't think they actually say that in Sherlock Holmes. That's a popular reference to Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. Yes. For anyone who is not, whose English isn't their first language, who may be suddenly encountering us, we're sorry for how we speak, because we are mad, frankly. Yeah, and
What
also,
is it you said about the English language?
it is well, it's a bastard mongrel language that beats up other languages and steals loose word grammar and syntax.
Yeah, mugs them for loose grammar.
Yeah. But also, no shit, Sherlock. It's an idiom basically meaning, well, duh, doesn't take a genius to work it out.
Yeah.
For anyone who is unfamiliar with English idioms, in which, I'll be honest, there's a few that have appeared in the writings of Sherlock Holmes that I've not immediately grasped.
Yeah.
As yes, but anyway, Miss I've just forgotten her name and I just read it. Miss Violet Hunter has now arrives at Baker Street, and while she's coming up the stairs, Watson remarks to Holmes of, "You remember the case of the blue collar uncle? That came out of a seemingly innocuous mystery, and it was quite a good one. This may also be the case." And Holmes is like, "Well, let us hope so. But our doubts will very soon be solved. For here, unless I am much mistaken, is the person in question." As a young lady enters into the room, plainly but neatly dressed, with a bright, quick face, freckled like a plover's egg, and with the brisk manner of a woman who has had to make her own way in the world. That was surprisingly hard to say.
Yeah. The gist of it is she's been solicited. Is that an accurate word? By someone offering her a lot of money to do a job in his house that would usually pay far less, on the proviso that she dress how he tells her to and cut her hair off.
Yes, cut her hair very short and dress how tells her, and follow certain whims of him and his wife.
Which he is not specific about.
Yeah. And it is a governorship, so looking after the son of or a governessship. So essentially not quite a nanny, but basically a nanny. The difference between a nanny is temporary. A governess lives with you, is also expected to help educate, and is of a lower social station than the owners of the house. If they were of the same social station, they would be called the au pair, which translates as social equal.
Right.
So that doesn't quite have the same ring as he's run off with the social equal. Doesn't quite have the same ring as he ran off with the nanny.
Yeah.
I know this through a combination of A, English literature, B, QI, and C, family member who trained as an Orland nanny. sort of like top of the line nannies. This is the sort of nanny you'd hire if you're an ambassador level of nanny.
I see.
Yeah. The training has changed a bit since since the days of the family member who trained, because some of them now have self-defense classes as part of it in case of kidnapping attempts. This just sounds so spy agency nanny, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, but this woman is for a job that she did previously as a governess at £4 a month, is being offered £100 a year. Now that is just over double the amount she was earning for it. Because at £4 a month, 12 months in a year, that would be £48 of my master's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And she's now being offered. Yeah.
48. So her annual income would amount to £5,235 today, which is not enough to live on.
No. Though,
Although
admittedly,
maybe it would have been back then.
Also, as a governess, food would have been provided most to an extent, and she wouldn't have had to worry about accommodation as she was living with them.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's still pocket money, really.
Yeah, nowadays, certainly. Now, that how much she would have made before this offer or after this offer?
Before. After,
Yeah.
it's...
After.
Oh, no, sorry, I put too many zeros. It's 10,900, basically just shy of 11 grand a year.
Which, I will be utterly honest, is not massively far off of my last job.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, so, yeah. But her duties would have included these occasional whims and looking after a 6-year-old who is... This is our introduction to him. One child, one dear little romper, just 6 years old. Oh, and if you could see him killing cockroaches with a slipper. Smack, smack, smack.
That's
Be gone before you could wink. Yeah.
See, now, red flag number 1 there.
Yeah.
Well, I've spoiled a few red flags in advance, like the whole control over her appearance thing.
Yeah. Because of the request to cut her hair, she actually refuses the job initially, despite the frankly ludicrous wage. But she's come back to
I'd be telling her to run the other way as fast as she possibly could, frankly.
Yeah, she comes back around sort of like when she comes, thinks about it across the day. She starts questioning herself and then is questioning even more and has made a resolution to inquire as to whether the position is still available for her when she receives a letter from Jeff Roofcastle. God almighty, that's
her would-be employer.
Yeah, and she gets a letter which is, Dear Miss Hunter, Miss Stopper has very kindly given me your address, and I write from here to ask you whether you have reconsidered your decision. My wife is very anxious that you should come, for she has been much attracted to my yes, it is attracted, not attached. Attracted by my description of you. We are willing to give £30 a quarter or £120 a year, so as to recompense you for any slight little inconvenience which our fads may cause you. They are not very exacting after all. My wife is fond of a particular shade of electric blue, and would like you to wear such a dress indoors in the morning. You need not, however, go to the expense of purchasing one, as we have one belonging to my dear daughter Alice, now in Philadelphia, which would, I should think, fit you very well.
The extra 20 a year takes it up to 13 grand a year, by the way.
Yeah. Then, as to sitting here or there, or amusing yourself in any manner dictated, that need cause you no inconvenience. As regards your hair, it is no doubt a pity, especially as I could not help remarking its beauty during our short interview, but I am afraid that it must remain firm upon this point, and I only hope that the increased salary may recompense you for the loss. Your duties, as far as the child is concerned, are very light. Now do try to come, and I shall meet you with the dog cart at Winchester. Let me know your train. Yours faithfully, Jeff Roofcastle. Who has been described as sort of a jolly man and with a lot of energy, a smiling face, and fat, basically.
Yeah. And also very funny, apparently.
Yeah, if memory serves. As she shows this letter to Holmes and Watson, and she's made up her mind to accept it, though she did not want to take this final step without submitting this whole matter to Holmes's consideration. And he's like, "Well, Miss Hunter, if your mind is made up, that settles the question," says Holmes, smiling. "But you would not advise me to refuse? I confess that is not the situation that I would like to see a sister of mine apply for." "What is the meaning of it all, Mr. Holmes?" "Ah, I have no data. I cannot tell. Perhaps you have yourself formed some opinion?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, Sherlock is saying, like, you know, if I cared about you, I'd want you not to take it.
yes. There is a bit of an implication that Holmes is actually attracted to her for a moment, but not because of who she is, but because of the mystery associated with it.
Yeah.
Like the strange situation she finds herself attached.
So, like, I think what's happening here is he can't lie to her and say you should take it, but he also doesn't want to discourage her out of curiosity for the mystery. So he is honest as like,
Yeah.
It's not something I'd say that a sister of mine should do.
Yeah, and indeed, he's sort of he's sort of bowing to her will because she's decided to that she is going to accept it. So it's just like, well, I'm not going to talk you out of it if you've chosen to accept. I want to see what's going on with this nonsense.
And also, like, when people ask you, should I do this, about half the time they're generally asking the question, but sometimes, and the other half the time, they're seeking, like, they're seeking confirmation rather than advice.
Yeah, they're almost looking to absolve the responsibility of a decision they've already made.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And I think that might be what's happening here anyway, because that money would be quite the law.
Yeah, I mean, she says they would. Why should they? It's mentioned. Why should they give you 120 years when they could have their pick for 40? There must be some strong reason behind it. The only theory she comes up with is that the wife is mad and that these. Oh, I've forgotten what they called them. And that obeying these humors help keep an attack of madness away. So basically, keep the wife stable and quiet, as opposed to the sheer amount of drugs that they're probably pumping into the woman, just as a day-to-day thing of the fact they're living in the Great Binge.
Yes. So it's basically you when you ask me, should I buy this? Well, to be fair, on the times I have done that, I haven't been sure whether I wanted the thing. And sometimes the reaction, one way or the other, is like, do I actually want this thing?
Yeah. But, yes, yeah. Holmes assures her that this is the most interesting problem that's come his way in some months. Wow, he had a bit of a dry spell of mysteries. He saying that there was something distinctly novel about it. If you should find yourself in doubt or in danger, What danger do you see? Holmes shakes his head. It would cease to be a danger if I could define it, but at any time, day or night, a telegram would bring me down to your help. This seems to calm Violet. Was Violet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This calms Violet, who leaves shortly thereafter. And when she leaves, Watson's like, at least she seems to be a young lady who is very well able to take care of herself. Holmes is like, she would need to be. I am much mistaken if we do not hear from her before many days are past.
See, he knows it's a bad idea, and he just wants to know why.
Yes, this is one of his less caring moments, and sort of like, he's letting a woman walk into a situation he wouldn't recommend to, but he has said, like, if you need help, send word and I will be there straight away.
Yeah. So I think he's going like, yeah, she's probably walking into trouble, but I can help if I can get her out of it.
Yeah. Yes. And it is not 2 weeks later when they get a message from her, which is, please be at the Black Swan Hotel at Winchester at midday tomorrow. It says, do come, I am at my wit's end. It also, this is a
2 weeks later. Well, not 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, but a fortnight went by. It is Holmes does seem to be thinking on the issue a fair amount, because Watson's noticing he's on his brow and he's thinking, and he then asks her what he's thinking of the situation. And another line I have heard in a few things about Sherlock Holmes, not quite as famous as eliminate the impossible, but data, data, data. I can't make bricks without clay.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as common. I think I've heard it in 2 adaptations, certainly. One is the Robert Downey Jr. ones, and one is Elementary. And to be fair, it may not have actually been in Elementary, but something along those lines.
Yeah.
But given Beryl Coronet actually turned up in Elementary, or a replica of it,
Oh, did it?
or a reference
I should
is...
watch that show. I keep being told it's good.
You keep being told by me. I've
Yeah.
told you many a time.
You're not the only person who said to me that it's good, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But they get their telegram late at night when Watson was about to go to bed and Holmes was about to spend all night playing with chemicals. No,
Of
that
course.
is not a euphemism before you ask, Seb. And nor is it him getting high as a kite, because he refers to, I should leave this exploration of acetones.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
need euphemism for that. He's quite open about it.
I mean, this is the time historically known as the Great Binge.
Yeah.
You could buy kits to send to soldiers abroad that contained heroin until the night, until like during the Second World War. You could buy those kits to be sent with heroin and cocaine. It's just sort of like Harrod sold it, for God's sake.
Bloody
The worst thing
hell.
that happened. Yeah, probably one of the worst things that happened to Harrods was the banning of cocaine and heroin sales.
The great binge he just spent all day watching Netflix.
That's what it would be nowadays.
I suppose. Yeah.
God, opium dens would have the most insufferable Netflix program just on a loop nowadays. Yeah. Holmes asks whether Watson's coming with him, and Watson says, and he gets Watson to look at the trains, and there's one that will get them to Winchester at 11:30, so before midday. So they'll get there, and they make their way over to the Winchester. And they have a discussion about the nature of country living.
Yeah.
Specifically, Holmes saying that he gets actually scared of country living.
Yeah, I feel similar, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's sort of like the houses are so far apart. Each of these like houses where it's just one house with many fields, bordering more fields with houses far distance away. Such horrible acts can take place in them and there isn't anyone to hear it, as opposed to a metropolis where the cry out for help will be heard by at least someone who cares.
Yeah.
Which I can understand it, having lived part of the time in the country of my life. It's sort of like there is definitely a difference in how how the two feel, and also certainly a convenience of not having to get a train to get to a shop.
Yeah.
As it feels like in the case here, or a horse and cart.
So are they having a cold pint and waiting for it all to blow over? If you hadn't made the joke, I probably would have eventually.
No, not quite yet. Yeah, no. That is essentially they had half of that when they were trying to hunt down a goose. They had a cold pint.
Yeah.
They didn't wait for it to blow over. They caused some problems. Did our boys of Baker Street?
Yeah. The Baker Street boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gist of it being it would be incredibly easy to conceal something horrible here.
Yes, and yes, that's was sort of demonstrated by the sign of the Four. It was a semi-country house. Granted, it was on the outskirts of London, but no one found that the guy had died until a day later.
They should get 4 friends so they can call themselves the Baker's Dozen. A baker's dozen is 13.
Yeah.
An extra 1 for the baker, I think, is the...
Yeah.
But they also wonder about on what the situation is, and Holmes says, "I have
But
7
a dozen
ideas,
is 6.
but I can't
That's half a dozen, you... A dozen is 12.
Yeah, a dozen is 12.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other is the same.
Yeah. A score is 20. Yeah.
So all this time I've been buying too few eggs. Well, depends on the context. For breakfast you could probably get by. To make yourself roughly the size of a barge, yes.
Oh, he has 4 dozen eggs, and what you've been doing is buying 2 dozen eggs. Was just to make him get large. That does explain what you haven't got there yet, Seb. And now he's a man, you should be eating 5 dozen eggs, so you're roughly the size of a barge. No, to do that in America now would cost you an absolute fortune.
Apparently so.
Yeah, seeing that. No, I'm not going into that because we will never actually finish the story. But Holmes says 7 ideas of what this could be about, but he doesn't have enough information to tell which it is.
Apparently that was Hayden Christensen's actual method to bulk up for Revenge of the Sith. Okay. It's out there enough that you might not be joking.
Yeah, well, you've seen the meals Chris Hemsworth had to eat to get to his bulk.
I haven't, actually.
And, oh god, it was just sort of like at lunch he'd be having a full roast chicken alongside other food, and that would be his lunch, the smaller of his 2 main meals. Or his 2 hot meals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Tom Hiddleston starved.
Yeah.
But anyway, the story.
Sorry, got distracted.
They make their way to the hotel and they are greeted by Miss Hunt, or they make their way to the inn. And they are greeted there. It's an inn of repute, but it is of ill repute. It's far too easy to read when skimming of it. Skimming the text.
Yeah.
They go to the Black Swan. And we're served by Natalie Portman dancing around. Not really, but here we are.
Yeah. And, well, they meet Miss Hunter. And she regales them with stories of her time in this house, which, you know, generally speaking is Nothing too out there, but for a few details.
Yeah, she recounts a couple of times where they have their fancies take them, and the master of the house regale. She sits in the
Master of the house. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, I was fighting it as well. Where she is put in the electric blue, wears the electric blue dress, is sat in the sort of the drawing room, and is regaled with amusing stories by the master of the house. Else, for an hour or two, and is then sent to continue with her normal duties, changing out of the dress, and then the strange incidents. The second time this happened, she has a bit of a broken hand mirror in her handkerchief because she suspects that there's something on, and there is a man watching intently through the window from the road, and the lady at the house comments on it and tells her to shoo him away, like so, and which she does shortly before shutting the blinds. There, one day when she is pottering about, having putting her things away, and the third drawer in the chest of drawers is locked, and she tries the key she's been given because she can do with the space, and she does. As unlock it, and inside is a braid of hair that is functionally identical to hers that she had cut off and bound, which is actually a thing. It's for a wig to be made of it afterwards.
Yeah.
It's for either when you are ill or when you're in prison, which is where I know it from. It's from a novel I read about a Victorian woman's prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh God, I can't remember what it's called at the moment. I have the book somewhere, probably at my dad's. But anyway, but she is shocked by this and thinks that they've moved her braid from the bottom of her traveling trunk into the drawer. But nope, it is identical. It is the same shade and the similar length to hers, and the same sort of thickness. So she puts it back and locks it and doesn't mention it. There's a couple of workers at the house, a groundskeeper, his wife. Yeah, it's just the groundskeeper and his wife, and the groundskeeper is the only one who can control the dog that they have, a mastiff who is kept hungry and let out at night. So he will bite any intruders.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does not go well. So she's been advised to not go out at night. Right, otherwise the mastiff will be upon her. And there is a wing of the house that is unused, and but that she sees the master of the house coming out of it once and making sure it is locked, and then he says, I can't remember exactly what he says about it, but he is not he is not particularly sort of.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean the secret room? He says it's his dark room.
Yeah, but it's when she first encounters it, sort of like him locking the corridor. So, but she finds it again later, and he's left the key in the door. So she unlocks and looks in, and there is a door to the side of the corridor, and it is bound at one end by tied rope, and at the other end by a large lock with a wooden bar between them. And it's sort of like she noticed from the outside when taking the little one for a walk around it that all the windows are sort of grimy and cobwebbed, apart from one, which is wooden shutters across it and essentially nailed in place by the looks of it. And she so she's trying to work out what's going on. He's that, and she comes out of the corridor hearing someone coming up the stairs, and it's the master of the house. And she said it felt so strange and wrong in there, and sort of like how the light falls in there was the line she gave. And he replied with, "If you ever go in there again, I will throw you to the mastiff." And yes. And that is when she sent for help.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she feels threatened by everyone, basically. But tonight seems to be a good chance to get Sherlock and Watson in to try and help her and investigate that room and work out what's going on. Because the master and his wife are headed out for the evening. And yeah, the groundskeeper is an alcoholic and has drunk himself into a stupor the night before and is unlikely to be recovered by this evening properly because he still seems to be drinking. And Holmes proposes that they trick the wife into the cellar and lock the door on her.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
they do.
The groundskeeper's wife, yeah. Which they do.
And you can hear thumping.
Yeah. Yeah, and Watson and Holmes make it by 7 o'clock, the time they said to do that, the time they said they would be there. And on the way, Holmes mentions about the character of the people, and they sort of like he figured out a bit about what kind of people these are by the behaviour of their child, and Watson sort of like, huh? And he was like, oh, please, as a medical man, you must have known that the best way to judge the behaviour of the parent is to observe the child. It's just sort of like he's let loose and he's of a foul temperament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't know how true that I think that is, but if we're taking that as true in the context of the story, the seeds were sown early when the father mentions with glee how funny it is that his son can quickly kill cockroaches with his left. Like, you know, that's some, you know, a child taking pleasure in killing insects is a universally bad sign.
It is actually stated later on that the child's main hobbies involve the capture of animals and insects, and that he has taught himself to fashion things to catch birds and such. So, it continues on a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the story is screaming at you from every turn. He's keeping someone prisoner.
Yes, and they arrive, and Mrs. Toller, the groundskeeper's wife, is locked in the basement. Mr. Toller is asleep on the kitchen carpet due to booze. She's nicked his keys, and they're now, which are a copy of the master of the house is, and they are going up to the bit. And they get to the barricade, and they're just sort of like they try the keys in the lock, but none of them work because they're not going to give the groundskeeper the key to the lock of the door, are they?
No, I suppose not.
Where they're keeping a prisoner. So they go the truss. So once the keys don't work, they cut the rope off the other end and slide the bar out. And they. And Holmes goes, "You best stay out here. It's best that me and Watson go in alone at first." And they rush into the room after breaking down the last bit of the door, because apparently there's so many locks on this door, it's ridiculous. It's quite possibly that the rope is holding the bar and the lock is on a separate bit. But they knock it down with their united strength and rush into the room, which is empty of people. There's a little pallet bed, a small table, and a basket full of linen. But there is a skylight which is open, and the prisoner is gone. There's been some villainy here. And they assume that the master of the house has been quick about it and has stolen his own daughter out of the skylight, which is not actually the case.
No. The problem is, in fact, the groundskeeper. Unless I read it wrong.
Well, the groundskeeper's wife is aware of what's going on. The groundskeeper is drunk and useless, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, the groundskeeper's wife is aware of the plan, and if Miss Hunter hadn't got involved, the same result as what she was aiming for would have happened, which is lady would have got out. But at this point, the master of the house has come back and he sees them there standing in the room, and then sees the open skylight. He's like, "You villain! Where's my..." The Sherlock's like, "You villain! Where's your daughter?" Looks around and is just like, "'Tis for me to ask you that, you thieves, spies and thieves! I have caught you, have I? You are in my power. I'll serve you." And he runs and goes, and he goes, "It's gone for the dog." And Watson's like, "I have my revolver.
Yeah.
Better close the front door." So they rush downstairs, slam the door, and then they had hardly reached the hold where they hear the baying of a hound and then the scream of agony with a horrible worrying sound which is dreadful to listen to. An elderly man with a red face and shaking limbs staggers out the side door. "God, someone has let loose the dog. It's not been fed for 2 days. Quick, or it'll be too late." And they go out, and the dog currently has its muzzle buried in Rucastle's throat.
Yeah.
Who is writhing and screaming in a remarkable level of survival. And then the poor dog, Watson, blows its brains out.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. Poor doggo.
There's no bad dogs. Bad owners and the occasional moment of mischief.
Yeah.
This is not a moment of mischief. This is a bad owner's case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the word mischief falls slightly short of the mark.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of bear when I say mischief.
Yeah,
right now.
I know.
Yeah. Does Seb know what bear did?
Oh no, I might as well say that. Mom spent all of yesterday cooking a big leg of lamb for dinner for these 3 days. Bear had other plans. Turned his back on him for a second, and he's not usually he doesn't usually steal food like that. He's not usually that preoccupied with food, so no one expected it. Yes, you could argue that Bear won.
Yeah, Bear has had his fill of lamb and potatoes for the near future. Yes, but yeah, and they bring the master of the house back into the drawing room sofa and basically leaving there. Well, Watson attends to him, I imagine, while they wait for the local physician to arrive, who has been sent for. And Mr. Toller has sobered up somewhat as you would imagine in this situation, and has gone to fetch his wife and inform her of the news.
Yeah.
Who's at Yeah, and this is where we learn that Miss Toller was under the plan to get the woman out of the room this evening as it was, and had been working with because shock horror, the locked up woman was their daughter, who is supposedly in Philadelphia, who had cut her hair during a bout of illness and recovered, but she had been engaged to a gentleman, and her father did not want her to leave because she would take her money with her. In another familiar movement, I want to say this is the third one
Yeah.
that's been like that. Well, the Speckled Band and it was one of the ones we read in the first week, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. What was it called? I know the one you mean. It was the third one, I think.
Yeah. I want to say Vanishing Groom, but it's definitely not that.
A Case
there
of
isn't
Identity. That's what it's called.
Case of Identity, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's another case of a father/parent figure not wanting their daughter to marry because money.
Yeah. Seb wants to know if you've seen Mastiff.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it turns out they hired this governess so that she could basically unknowingly impersonate the daughter and discourage her fiance, and make think that she had moved on from him. But he was persistent, and with the help of Miss Toller, or Mrs. Toller, was able to rescue her.
Oh, good.
And and Holmes actually apologizes to Miss Toller for having her locked in the basement.
Ah. Yeah. See, it does occasionally show us Sherlock Holmes getting a detail wrong, as is the case now.
Yeah, but Holmes and Watson take Miss Hunter back to Winchester as their position is not exactly brilliant. It's not like they're going to be able to stay at the house this evening.
No, I don't suppose so.
And it's not like Mrs. Hunter is going to have a job.
No,
unfortunately.
Not.
Yeah, Mr. Rucastle is confirmed to have survived, but he was a broken man, kept alive solely through the care of his devoted wife. And they keep their old servants because, frankly, they know too much.
Yeah.
But Mr. Fowler, the fiance, and Miss Rucastle do get married by special license in Southampton the day after they run away, and he is now the holder of a government appointment in the island of Mauritius. And Miss Violet Hunter is doing well in a new job at a school, but he is disappointed that after the case, Sherlock stopped showing interest in her. Which is, well, I say they state it, they outright state that he's not, that Sherlock is only interested in her as much as the mystery connected to her. Once the mystery is gone, he is no longer interested. Which is probably why he's so interested in Irene Adler, because the mystery will never be gone with the woman.
Yeah.
Because she's got away from him. And also employed similar methods to his own to outwit him.
Yeah. I can imagine that this story spawned a lot of rural horror tropes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty obvious that he was keeping someone locked up, and it was probably his daughter.
Yes. especially as like they got a governess who was close enough to the build of the daughter that the dress was described as if it was measured for her, but showed signs of wear
Yeah.
or having been worn. So yes, this one, if it didn't spawn the trope, certainly helped them grow an awareness of rural horror.
Yeah.
Which I must admit, for my mind, rural horror involves druids rather than sort of a country home.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
yeah.
yeah. Instead of
Although
having to
it
deal
does
with
make me
midgets,
think
you have
slightly of Hot Fuzz.
to yes, that is true.
Yeah.
They're great. They're good.
They're great. They're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of the Copper Beeches?
I liked it. I'm a little disappointed that the Copper Beeches are just a type of tree in this context. That just marks the house out.
Yeah, there was no actual beach involved.
All copper.
Yeah.
Apart from possibly the colour of the hair would have lent slightly towards copper, but wasn't copper enough for the Red-Headed League.
So if there's rural horror, the only inspiration they need for that is a rural bus service.
Oh God. Yeah. No, I live in a city, but I go to visit friends in small towns in the countryside. It's just some of the headaches getting there. It's like there used to be a service every 15 minutes. Back when I was young. My God, buses have got awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, no, I can get it. It certainly has the vibe of sort of like you can't trust rich folk in the countryside. Or it certainly lends an ode to, oh, someone's missing? Have you checked the attic?
Yeah.
I suppose that wasn't helped by the Brontes. Which one was it? I want to say Charlotte, who wrote Jane Eyre. Was it? Or am I thinking of things?
Seb says, we live in a medium-sized town. We might as well live in rural Kentucky. Yeah, the buses here are not good.
Yeah. Just, it is Jane Eyre, Mr. Rochester. Yeah, it is Charlotte Bronte. I studied this for 2 years. Is sort of like it's trying to remember all of it. It's no, it's sort of like Jane Eyre would have occurred before Sherlock Holmes. So the family member locked in the attic or locked in the house would have been about then, because Charlotte Bronte, who wrote it, died in 1855.
How about that?
Yeah. 4 years before Conan Doyle was born. Yeah. It's like people who claim Isaac Asimov invented its science fiction. It is just sort of like, yes, that man who acknowledged that Mary Shelley is the founder of the genre, and was born after Mary Shelley had published Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I mean, like H.G. Wells was I think 11 when Frankenstein was released.
Huh.
Yeah.
The Bronte
anyway, that's
didn't really exist, wasn't it? So sorry, Zeb, I wasn't really looking at the comments. Oh right, Totally Real History. Seb does a video series on TikTok called Totally Real History, where he gives like comedically ridiculous history anecdotes.
Yeah, I am aware of the concept. I believe the Brontes are from Yorkshire, specifically being that Hayworth or Haworth in West Yorkshire. Given that I visited there, when I went up and saw my aunt and grandma up in the north, I went to where they grew up and the church their father worked at. Jane Austen has a link to Bath, and while not from Bath, Mary Shelley did write part of Frankenstein in Bath. I actually know exactly where she used to live. The building doesn't exist in the form it used to at the time. It's now part of the pump rooms by the Roman bath and the cathedral. There is a museum to both Mary Shelley. There's a Frankenstein museum, which is quite interesting, and there's also a Jane Austen museum, who has a much greater link to Bath. She hated the city, though. By all accounts. She hated it, but she lived here for years.
I mean, George Eliot was born in Nuneaton. I know because bloody everything is named after her.
Yeah.
George Eliot's house was by that bus stop at the Griff. Yeah, I know.
Mary Shelley is from London originally. She was born there. She lived in Bath for a bit.
I got drunk at her house before. Yes, that is technically a thing that I can claim.
Yeah.
I also wrote at Benjamin Franklin's house. Yeah, yeah. It's weird to think things like that, isn't it?
I drunk at D.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien's regulars at their usual haunts.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, or as close to one of them as exists. It's got the same name and did continue with the same landlord, I believe, but has actually changed building within Tolkien's lifetime, or just after Tolkien passed. So it's
which is now a Cafe
not
Nero in
the same
Preston.
building, but it is in spirit.
I visited Franz Mesmer's
Yeah.
house, which is... Oh, yeah, that was your research trip to Vienna, wasn't it?
Yes, we have. This is by far our longest one so far. By being nearly 35 minutes longer than it took you to read it. And of 35 minutes longer than it would have taken me playing at ×1 speed to get through it.
Yeah. Oh, I read along with 3.5 times speed on Audible, so 3 of these stories usually takes me no longer than an hour.
Yeah, so that's why I corrected it. It's 35 minutes longer than it should have taken me going at normal speed, and I'm slightly above that now to get through this. Seb has an offer to stay at the house. Now, sir, next time he's there.
Oh, cool.
Just be careful that it's not an offer from someone who reads a lot of Victorian murder mysteries.
Yeah. Well, okay, that was the end of the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. We should probably wrap this up.
Yes, it is gone the clock now.
Join us next week for the start of the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, and I just had the names of the stories in front of me. I've already forgotten them. Bear with me, I've got the book here. Contents. The 3 stories we will be reading for next week are Silver Blaze, The Yellow Face, oh god, The Stockbroker's Clerk is the 3rd one.
Yeah. Well, which one grabs you just from the title offhand?
I mean, the yellow face is probably going to be something. I mean, yellow face is the practice of making someone up to look Asian. So
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the audiobook version, and apparently the second one is The Adventure of the Cardboard Box, and the third one's The Adventure of the Yellow Face.
the Adventure of the Cardboard Box.
Yes, according to the audio thing I use.
Okay, let's have a look where that one is. The Glorious Scott, the Mangrove Ritual, the. Hold on. Okay. Right, in order in this book I have here, the. Oh, God. It's really hard to turn just one page when there's 1,300 of them.
Okay. The Adventure of the Cardboard Box was not initially included. Because apparently because of its mention of adultery in the Strand magazine.
Ah. Still about the yellow pistol. Well, is the cardboard box in here? Let's see. The Glorious Scott, the Musgrave Ritual, the Reigate Squires, the Crooked Man, the Resident Patient, the Greek Interpreter, the Naval Treaty, the Final Problem, and then the Return of Sherlock. Okay.
So the final problem might be aka the death of Sherlock Holmes.
I'm still not seeing the cardboard. The cardboard box, was it?
Yeah, that utterly serious. There's the Adventure of the Cardboard Box.
I'm not seeing that in
Just
here. But I wonder if it's on the Audible version that I got from Stephen Fry. I'll just check.
Yeah.
He admitted adultery exists. He must be kept. Well, that's what it was like at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
I am not using Audible for this. I am using the freely provided and well-performed ones that Ollie sent to me a while ago.
on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
I got Audible years ago, and the first thing I spent a credit on, because it was like 70 plus hours and narrated by Stephen Fry, was the complete works of Sherlock Holmes.
It's also about the most expensive thing on there, so you might as well get your money's worth from the off.
Yeah.
Eventually, actually getting through it.
Sort of like, oh no, the cardboard box. Yeah, the cardboard box is on the Audible version, so I will be able to go through that. So, next week, the adventure of... Well, no, it's not just called Silver Blaze, then the adventure of the cardboard box, and then the adventure of the yellow face, which I'm sure will be noteworthy, if nothing else.
I will say it is the shortest of the stories we are doing next week, the adventure of the yellow face, because it is only 44 minutes.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 57 and 53 minutes of the other two.
Well,
so it'll pass ever so slightly quicker.
Rather than having to pick up the book, put it down and pick it up again, I think I'll just listen to those three.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might take you a little longer without the book, but
yeah.
We'll get
I can comfortably do 3 times speed without a book.
Okay. Yeah, that was me just confusing it. But join us next week for that confusion of a mess of stories.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to, like, okay, so the complete stories of Sherlock Holmes book I had is not quite complete, which I didn't know. It's also out of order, which is annoying, because, like, I have to look up a table of contents. It's like, it has all 4 of the novels back to back, despite that not
And then-
in, and then the adventures, and then the memoirs.
Seb can also comfortably do speed.
I'm sure you can. He says, according to the audio thing I use, the next one is your free trial of audiobooks.com, isn't it? Oh.
Oh, I misread that horribly. I thought it was something else was being made reference to there. Or it was just saying, are you using Audible?
Ah,
Dear.
Okay, well, yeah, that's us then, unless you've got anything else to say, more general about the stories.
No, not right now. I was going to say we could posit which one we enjoyed most from the collection, but that might be a good place to start next week, given we've been going for the best part of 4 hours.
Yeah. So, thank you for joining us, Seb. Thanks for listening, anyone else who did. We will see you next week for the first 3 stories of the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Until then, oh yeah, if you miss us between now and then, we are going to be going through the DLC for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor this Sunday for Assassin's Sunday.
Yeah.
You think we'll get that done in one stream? I ask because I've never played it.
The Hunters one, maybe. I honestly don't remember how long it took me, but I remember it being shorter than the Bright Lord.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah, we'll be doing that this Sunday. I've still got to think up what I'm going to do on Saturdays.
And we should also be returning. If you miss us between Sunday and Wednesday, we should be returning to stream twitch.tv/eclectichawk for the first session of the next campaign, saying that they are running of Dungeons and Dragons, which I had the name of it when I started the sentence and have now forgotten.
Yeah, okay.
Nor the Battle to the Strong. It is called. A bit less snappy than Goblins versus Strahd, but we'll get there eventually.
A new campaign. I'm playing a Minotaur wrestler. It's gonna be fun.
Yes, I am a fishing spear. And I'm not explaining any more than that.
If you want more context, you're gonna have to tune in to twitch.tv/eclectichawk this coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
Until then,